go ahead and start this meeting of the Joint City Council, the Harbor District, CDC, and Oceanside Finance Authority, and January 18th, 2017. Roll call, please.
Mayor Wood.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Lowry.
Here.
Councilmember Feller. Councilmember Kern.
Here.
Thank you. The council will be meeting in closed session to discuss item 1 on the agenda, conference with labor negotiator involving the status of negotiations with the Oceanside Police Officers Association, and item 2A, conference with legal counsel on existing litigation in the matter of Greg Ebert versus City of Oceanside. That's a workers' compensation matter, Workers' Compensation Appeals Board number ADJ 875-2432. We'll take the workers' comp item first.
I want to make some announcement. I'd like to introduce our treasurer for the City of Oceanside. Doc, you want to stand up and introduce yourself? Dr. Trickey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's an incredible honor. I'm humbled by the appointment, and I plan to do my very best to serve everybody in this city with integrity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, roll call, please.
Mayor Wood.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Lowry.
Here.
Councilmember Feller.
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Here.
Councilmember Kern.
Here. Thank you. With that, can we start off with the consent calendar, please?
Yes, consent calendar items 3 through 10.
Request to pull item number 10. Otherwise, move approval for balance.
Okay. I'll second. And
on item 3, I just wanted it noted that in the minutes it says the motion was approved 5-0, but there were only 4 members of the council on that.
which item?
It is minutes of, I think, March 9th, 2005.
I will take those out and I will fix those and then bring them back to the next meeting.
Okay.
You don't have to bring them back. Just approve, change it. And
Okay, make it.
Okay. Please vote on the 3 to 9.
Motion approved 5-0. Item number 10 is approval to enter into a project-based voucher agreement to enter into a housing assistance payment contract with SFC Weitzel LP to use 25 project-based housing choice vouchers at Weitzel Street Apartments. Approval to award SFC Weitzel LP a 15-year housing assistance payments contract upon completing all contractual requirements. Approval to enter into a memorandum of understanding with SFC Weitzel LP regarding the project, and authorization for the Housing and Neighborhood Services Director to execute all applicable documents.
Ms. Sanchez?
Yes, say that again? No, not really. Thank you very much. I did have just a couple of questions. First one, it does call for a 15-year housing assistance payments contract. So what happens after 15 years? I mean, let's assume it gets built, everything is fine, all the requirements are met, and you've got these vouchers for 15 years. What happens after that?
Councilmember Sanchez, the program regulations allow the CDC to enter into another contract. In fact, HUD just issued regulations today that will allow that to be a 20-year contract. So it's fairly simple. There's no need to go out for bid or RFP. We enter into a contract.
So up until today, they were 15, and then today they're now 20. Are you going to be changing this to a 20-year?
We will not be changing this to a 20-year since it's already in process.
Okay.
But what happens is a minimum 1 year prior to the contract termination, we need to enter into a new contract because the property has to give residents at least a 1 year notice if it's going to be opted out.
Right. Okay. And the staff report indicated that CDBG funds were used for the construction. Some CDBG funds were used for the construction. How much was that?
I'm sorry, I don't know the exact amount. Oh, Marjorie's here to say.
Oh, and she's got those numbers like on the tip of her tongue. we gave them approximately $326,000 of total home fund and $900,000 of CDBG funds. And that was all for pre-development.
Okay, and the $900,000, could that have been used for anything other than construction?
It was all capital money. So it couldn't be used for social services or programs, no.
Could it have been used to improve, say, Balbroma Center? Or was it all for new building?
It could have been used for other capital type of improvements.
All right.
This money was originally set aside for the housing rehabilitation program, and with the recession, we weren't using the money and HUD wanted us to get it spent.
Right.
And this is eligible, yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Move approval.
Second.
No public.
Okay, Nelson, please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you. I'll be taking one item out of order, please. Ms. McVeigh, please, item number 12. Wait a minute. I say. Oh, Pearson, I'm sorry. I was close. Jane, how's that?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. Jane McPherson, Financial Services Director. I'm here tonight to present to you the 5-year financial forecast. The purpose of preparing this forecast and presenting it to you is to identify financial trends, identify changes in expenditures, and project the cost of maintaining current service levels. Some of the assumptions we used to prepare the forecast, we assume static conditions, rollover budget for expenditures. It does not include any new capital projects. Includes all known and negotiated personnel costs as well as placeholders for outlying years. It includes monies, which is 12% of budgeted expenditures for our Healthy City Reserves, which is our policy, and all required funding for restricted funds, workers' comp, risk. We have certain levels of funding we have to maintain. Here's some information. As you well know, PERS continues to be an ongoing problem as far as increasing rates. Our forecast includes all new PERS increases, which includes September 2016 when we got our annual actuarial report, as well as the December 2016 impact of the discount rate change, which is what they use to figure the earnings on the investment so the higher the discount rate, the more earnings they're making, that they actually lowered it because they weren't actually getting those returns. So in impact, we have to pay more in them. So the new rate increase effects with both items, the September and the December, is $1.9 million in 17-18, $3.5 million in 18-19, $2.3 million in 19-20, 2021, $2.4 million, and $1.5 million in 21-22 for a total of $11.6 million over 5 years. To look at it as a percent of compensation, this is general fund. 17-18, which is our next budget year we're going to be preparing, safety is 38% of their compensation. The PERS expense represents 38% of their compensation. Miscellaneous is at 27.31. Go forward 5 years, in 21-22, safety is going to be that employer is paying, the city's paying, is 49.18% of safety's compensation will be our expense, and 35.97% for miscellaneous. In order to be able to sustain and maintain current levels of services, it's recommended that we use $4.8 million out of our $6 million in reserves set aside for PERS to be able to cover those peak years. For 18-19, we're recommending $1.2 million.
1920, 1.2 million, and 2021, 2.4 million, for a total of 4.8. So overall, for next year, we're looking at revenues of $144.81 million, expenditures of $143.57 million, which gives us a capacity of $1.24 million. Although we have a capacity of $1.24 million, due to the increasing PERS rates, we are not recommending any addition of ongoing costs unless there is a new revenue offset. So we don't want to increase any expenditures. Implement modified hiring restrictions that if we lose a position, it'll be considered whether or not we need to hire right away in order to have some cost savings. One-time costs will be considered in as the general fund budget is assembled. So if we have some one-time costs, it depends whether or not it is the right thing for us to do in the coming, and it's also directed by you, the council. So as you can see, cost containment is really the theme for this forecast and to keep the city going forward and keep operations. Staff recommends that the City Council accept this fiscal year 17 to 22 general fund forecast. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Stephen, sidebar.
No public.
Back to the council. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. Yeah, can I sit over there?
Yes.
It's up to you. Thank you. So I have a couple questions. One is, PERS is the Public Employees Retirement System that we pay into in the way that regular outside employees, non-state employees pay into Social Security. So it's an investment operation so that we can put in some money and hope to get more money later. So that's correct, isn't it? I'm trying to do the,
It's not an exact match, but
yeah,
you have the general idea.
that idea. So what has happened now is that PERS has come to the conclusion that they can't make enough money to keep up with our retirement needs, and so they're going to charge us more money out of our own money. In the past, they didn't charge as much.
I can't necessarily agree with that comment. The problem is that we have more people that are on our retirement rolls than we have paying in, and if you don't have as much money coming in, plus not as much investment returns, we're going to have to pay more to continue to be paid out long term than those that have retired.
Okay. So what is the advantage of paying down from this $4.8 million? I mean, the money we're taking out of our reserves to pay down the PERS debt. Oh, I see Michelle's moving over here.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Lowry, Mayor, council members, the advantage is we won't suffer any service degradation. We want to be able to maintain services to the community. This money, $6 million was set aside for this purpose. We knew at some point that we would be hit with the PERS rate that we weren't going to be able to accommodate immediately. And so we want to use those funds while we implement some of these cost containment strategies, including, unfortunately, having to ask the employees to pay a little more of their PERS. I mean, it is our retirement, and I think that's inevitable. And so it gets us through the peak 3 years.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Sanchez, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And in the past, I've had a chance to talk with some of the employee groups and staff and understand that in some years that the city was not as well off economically, that there was a trade-off that the city would say, okay, we'll pay more into your PERS, and that way, no salary increases. So it was like kind of a one or the other kind of a thing. And the whole idea was that the city was supposed to put aside more and more at the point where the economy did get better. So where there were all these hopeful plans. Well, they didn't pan out because city never did do that, and now it's kind of caught up with us. So I thank staff for looking ahead and making sure that you're making sure that we're not going to ever even come close to something like bankruptcy, that some cities, instead of paying a PERS, they just said we're going to stop, which means that, the employees didn't get the retirement. And many cities do this where they only pay, it's only PERS and no Social Security. So you get to 65, 67, and, there's nothing out there, and it's really difficult to get a job, or, if you haven't, also put money aside. So, anyway, I do appreciate the conversation that we had about this. I had a whole bunch of questions. I thank you for responding to them, and I'm going to go ahead and move that we accept this this report.
Mr. Feller, please.
Well, I don't remember that any time during any of our term in office that any of that has happened. We've been very frugal as far as that goes. So I will say Social Security compared to public employee pensions is not even close to what most public employee pensions are like. It is the same idea, but we hope the government won't pull the plug on it, because I have only 52 years in Social Security, and I have just a few years in this. But most people plan their own retirements if they're able to. So that's what I did want to point out. I think that was a particular account that has the $6 million in it that was specifically for PERS payments. And so I think we had great foresight in setting aside $6 when we probably didn't have much. So I think that's a good thing. I think what you've explained to us here is going to be affecting every city in the country, but probably in the state of California much more. And I'm thinking that our city could fail, and you end up now all these pensions are no good at all. So same thing as if Social Security were to go away. So I think let's stay diligent about saving, and good job, and our prayers are with you too. So thank you,
Mr. Curry.
Thank you. This is not going to be the last time we talk about this. I'm not going to put the treasurer on the spot, kind of what our rate of return is, but it's nowhere near 7% that PERS is assuming. If PERS actually went down to a real rate of return, it would probably bankrupt about 40% of the cities in California. They are going to get there eventually, so we are going to have to wrestle with this. I call this a 30-year problem, and we're going to have to revisit this over and over again, because I imagine in the next couple of years, PERS is going to come back and readjust their rates again. If you look at the cost that we're doing this, that actually are probably the next 3 to 4 years, we're going to be losing services in order to pay retirees. We're going to be spending almost as much money on people that used to work here as we are on services. So we are going to have to get a handle on this, and I'm going to encourage the employees to participate and help, because I think we're all in this together. We want to keep this system solvent. but this is going to be the biggest problem for the state of California and the 418 cities in California for the next 20 years until this system gets itself worked out. So I'm encouraged that we've, thanks to the city manager and previous city managers, have planned for this, but unfortunately, I don't think we've planned far enough ahead, because we are going to, once we get past the 2022 year, it's going to be another dramatic increase. So, and God forbid that we hit another recession. And then, you know, you can kind of throw all these numbers out the window again. The recession in 2007, 2008, PERS lost a third of its value. You know, not just interest rate, they lost a third of their assets. So, you know, now the numbers that are based on 2/3 of the amount of money they had before. They are coming back, but it's a long, slow process, and just hope there's no hiccups along the way, because you know, I think that the toughest job in the next 5 years is going to be your job. You know, to be the finance director, manage these finances, because it's going to be very tricky. You're looking over at the treasurer and say, help me, help me, help me, help me. But with our investment policy, though, we don't have a lot of wiggle room on investments, so hopefully we can weather the storm. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, council members. I appreciate all of the comments. Everything you all have said is very accurate. This is a problem that's not just an Oceanside problem. As Councilmember Kern mentioned, it's definitely a statewide problem. And our commitment from the department heads, from my office, from Jane's office, is that we're going to do everything we can regarding cost containment to try to keep our ongoing expenditures down. If we end up to the good in the general fund this next fiscal year, as you know, my recommendation is that money goes right back into that PERS account. So we're going to be vigilant. It is keeping me up at night, and it's definitely an issue we have to keep our eye on. I appreciate the comment.
Mr. Feller?
I just wanted to add that I read my PERS brochure, as you all should, that are in PERS. They're blaming the cities for not paying enough money in. So that's pretty shocking when it's you know, their investments. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, we do. Well, could we have an acceptance of the report, please, forecast?
There was already a motion, a second.
Okay, so please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you very much. Jane, thank you very much. Item number 11, please, we get a chance.
Yes, item number 11 is authorization to award a contract in amount not to exceed $6,073,807 to Canyon Springs Enterprises, DBA RSH Construction Services of Hemet, for construction of the Morrow Hills No. 1 and No. 2 Reservoir Repairs Project. Approval of professional services agreement with Tetra Tech of Irvine in amount not to exceed $485,000 for construction management and inspection services for the project. Approval of professional services agreement with Dudek of Encinitas in amount not to exceed $193,725 for engineering support services for the project, and authorization for the city manager to execute the agreements upon receipt of all supporting documents.
Thank you. Carrie, how are you?
I'm fine, Mayor. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and honorable council members. Carrie Dale, Water Utilities Director. So before you this evening is consideration of another large infrastructure project for the Water Utilities Department. It's the Morrow Hills Reservoirs 1 and 2, and we're bringing this project before you to be proactive in our infrastructure repairs, so that we don't end up like San Diego being on the news having problems with breaks or other issues with our infrastructure. Greg Kepler, our senior civil engineer, will be providing the presentation once we get it up here, and we'll both be available at sidebar for questions.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council members. I'm Greg Kepler, Water Utilities Department. We're here to present to you for your consideration this evening the award of a construction contract to Canyon Springs Enterprises in the amount of $6,073,807 to perform the construction and repairs of the Morrill Hills No. 1 and 2 reservoirs, and approve a PSA to Tetra Tech in an amount of $485,000 to perform CM and inspection services for the project, as well as approve a PSA to DUDEC in an amount of $193,725 for engineering support services during construction. To give you a little bit of background on this project in particular, we have 12 reservoirs in our distribution system. They're a vital part of the distribution system. They ensure that we are able to provide water service reliably throughout the city. We have three basic types of reservoirs. They're constructed of pre-stressed tanks that have a gunite coating on them, as well as a distinctive gunite dome. We have 5 of those in our system. We have 6 pre-stressed concrete tanks that have a cast-in-place concrete roof, it's a flat roof, and then we have 1 steel tank in our system. The reservoirs range in age from 20 to 60 years old, and the 2 reservoirs that we're considering tonight are the Morrill Hills No. 1 and 2 reservoirs, and these repairs are vital and necessary. This shows you the area that the 2 reservoirs are located. So we're looking in the northeast part of the city limits up in the Morrill Hills area. The reservoirs are located off of Sleeping Indian and Wilshire Road, and the tanks sit right next to each other up at the site. So these are the photos of the reservoirs as they exist today. So the reservoir on the left is the Morrill Hills No. 1 reservoir. It has the distinctive domed roof. And the reservoir on the right is the Morrill Hills No. 2. It's the steel tank. So currently, the Morrill Hills No. 1 reservoir does not meet current seismic requirements. And what that means is that there is no actual structural connection from the tank to the tank's foundation. So if there is an earthquake, the tank could literally slide off the foundation. So this project will remedy that issue. And then in addition to that, we're also going to improve the connections of the tank to the roof. What we'll do is the retrofits will consist of tying the tank to the footing and the footing to the roof. And this process requires a very specialized piece of machinery to do the work. And I have a video in this presentation that I'll show you that shows the machinery in operation. In addition to that, Morrill Hills No. 2, our steel tank, when we did some inspections a couple years ago that produced this project, we also found that some of the columns that support the roof are corroded and in need of replacement. The risk is that the roof on the tank could fail and collapse. So this is a video that I took of Guahomie No. 1, which we did a similar type of project about a year ago. And this clip shows the actual sort of deconstruction of the tank. This is the removal of the exterior coating, and it's a necessary step in order for them to perform the seismic improvements. So this next slide will kind of walk you through the major steps that are required to perform these seismic improvements. So the first step involves demolishing the existing footing, and once the footing is demolished, they start constructing a new footing. So they install new reinforcing steel, and then you can kind of see some cables going up the side of the tank. Those are the new seismic cables. Once everything is installed, they actually pour the footing and they remove the forms. So you can see in this image, this is the tank with the new seismic cables installed. Then this wrapping machine comes around and actually wraps the tank and holds those cables to the tank. And then the final image shows this wrapping machine, which also applies the finished shotcrete coating to the tank to protect the cables. So this is a little video clip again of the Oklahoma one, which we did a year ago, and this shows preparation of the existing concrete tank wall to receive the wrapping of the steel cables. So this machine actually rides on the new footing that's constructed as part of the project. So council authorized this project to be called for bids last November. We received 4 bids for this project. And we reviewed all the bids, and we determined that Canyon Springs Enterprises, doing business as RSH Construction, is the apparent low bidder. And in addition to awarding of the construction contract, as I alluded to earlier, we're requesting that we provide construction management and inspection services for this project, and that's to ensure that the project is built per the contract documents. Tetra Tech will be providing these services, and Dudek, who is the engineer of record for the project, they are going to be retained to provide engineering support services. Their scope of work will entail reviewing submittals by the contractor to make sure that the materials meet all the contract specifications. So fiscal year 2016-17 CI budget includes $7,621,832 in new project funds, which comes from the account shown here. The funding from this project comes from the use of reserve account 712, which is the water fixed asset replacement fund. The construction contract price, again, is $6,073,807. Therefore, sufficient funds are available. And in conclusion, our recommendation is to award the construction contract to Canyon Springs Enterprises for $6,073,807, approve a PSA with Tetra Tech for $485,000 for CM and inspection services, and approve a PSA with Dudek for $193,725 for engineering support services. And if you have any questions, I'll take those over at sidebar. Thank you.
Public?
No public.
Thank you. Back to the council. Ms. Sanchez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I did have one question. You indicated in your report that you're going to ensure no interruption of water services, right? And so you did temporary rerouting. Can you, again, tonight, guarantee that there will be no interruption of water services?
We can guarantee to the best of our ability. I mean, sometimes things come up in construction that nobody could have accounted for, but we have a very solid plan in place to reroute flows to make sure that, knowing what we know, that the water service will be provided at all times.
Okay. You've already done some rerouting, is that correct?
Well, we've started testing the system, and we certainly learned a lot when we took the reservoir out of service last year. So Robert Gutierrez is here. Was our water distribution supervisor. He helped us develop a very thorough plan to make sure that we don't have any interruptions to service.
So you've picked up a little bit of experience of what could come up. What was the longest period that water service stopped?
We never actually had any interruptions on the Oklahoma project.
Okay, good.
We were able to work around this.
Okay.
Typically, it would be up to 8 hours if we were to encounter any kind of an interruption. That's what the contract requires. No more than 8 hours.
What kind of noticing do you provide to the community here?
So we've already done noticing in terms of public outreach, so the community is aware that this project's going to happen. I believe the notices were sent out a couple weeks ago. If we're planning a shutdown where service will be interrupted, we usually provide that at least 72 hours in advance, and usually longer.
Right. Well, I'm sure they are supporting this project because it is definitely necessary.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all
We
right.
don't want our reservoirs to collapse in an earthquake.
No. I'm gonna go ahead and move approval, and that we award the contract and approve the agreements. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kern?
I'll second the motion. I just have a couple questions myself. Since there's two reservoirs, are we doing them sequentially, or are we trying to do them at the same time?
Good question. So they will be done sequentially. So we will, the way the contract was written was in order to minimize disruption to service, we're only allowing the contractor to take one reservoir out of service at a time. And so, but they're part of the same project. So the way the schedules, we're envisioning it working is they'll take Morrow Hills number 2 out first, do all the work that's necessary for that reservoir. Once that work's completed, then they'll move on to Morrow 1. So we'll always have at least one reservoir in service up there.
And I guess the other next question is, the water that's in the reservoirs now, we're just not gonna dump that out, are we? I mean,
Absolutely not. That'll be conveyed out to the distribution system. And typically when we do these types of projects, once we get all the water out into the system, there may be a few inches of water left in the tank, and that's drained. But the water will not be wasted at all.
Yeah, well,
It gets sent to the
most
users.
reservoirs have the dead pool at the bottom anyway that you can't reach. It's never been there.
Exactly.
So, that's good. And then I guess, for everybody's edification, the timing of it, when do you expect to start, and when do you expect to finish?
So we expect the contractor to actually be up there in earnest doing construction work probably in March, this March, and we expect to be completed by the summer of 2018.
Oh, okay, so that's fairly quick. So
Very aggressive schedule.
yeah, it's a very aggressive schedule, so good. And of course, hopefully we have rain days. Then you can't work, like this next week, so, anyway, all right, well, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor Wood. So, we are talking about 3 different contracts here. One contract is to hire a management company to supervise the operation that's going on there. Is that what they're going to do?
Correct. So the construction management and inspection services, the construction manager is there to basically field all the day-to-day questions that get asked, requests for information, facilitate the distribution of the submittals by the contractor to the engineer of record so they can be reviewed. They manage the schedule. They'll be reviewing payment applications before they're given to me. And then obviously we have the full-time inspector, so they'll be up there full-time inspecting the construction activities to make sure they're done per the contract requirements.
Is that both of these other contracts? Or
So
is it
that's
just
one
Tetra
contract.
Tech?
That's the one contract with Tetra Tech.
Yeah, and then the other contract is with Dudek of Encinitas, and that's to make sure everything is done.
They'll be the ones actually responsible for reviewing the submittals of the materials that the contractor is proposing to use on the contract are actually per the specifications. And then sometimes things come up in construction or we need a workaround, and so we're retaining their services to make sure that we can work through any issues that might come up. If there needs to be a change to the plans or something like that, they're also retained, and they'll be attending meetings out in the field on a regular basis to make sure that construction's going according to plan.
So we have multiple levels of redundant systems in place to make sure everything is done correctly and according to plan. So it's not just that we have the one contractor out there doing the job and then we wonder how it went later on.
That's right.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And?
There's a motion second if you'd like to vote.
Go ahead, vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you very much. And make sure. So we'd close on number 18.
Thank you. The council met in closed session to discuss item 1 on the agenda, conference with labor negotiator involving the status of negotiations with the Oceanside Police Officers Association. There's no action under the Brown Act to report on that item. The council also met on item 2A, conference with legal counsel in existing litigation in the matter of Greg Ebert versus City of Oceanside, a workers' compensation case, case number ADJ 8752432. Again, the council met and gave direction that there's no reportable action at this time.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, number 22, and Mr. Kern, Deputy Mayor's item.
Yes, item number 22 is a request by Councilmember Kern and Deputy Mayor Lowry to join the Concerned Coastal Communities Coalition and request $600 per month for 1 year for consultation and advocacy services to towns and public affairs.
Gentlemen, you take it.
We're looking at each other, who goes first, so, yeah. So I'm on first. This is a group of coastal communities in in San Diego and Orange County. The Deputy Mayor and I have been meeting with them for the last about 5 or 6 months, about every other month that we have these meetings, either here in Oceanside or up in Orange County, to actually discuss the same issues that face all the coastal cities here, and how we leverage our organization or our association with these other cities on a couple issues. This basically started about the San Onofre issue, about how we get the state to get engaged and the federal government to get engaged on moving nuclear fuel out of San Onofre. And out of that grew this organization that we started talking about, wait a second, we have issues with short-term rentals, we have issues with sober living units, we have issues, coastal issues and sand issues and State Lands Commission issues. So we've been meeting to discuss that and come up with some strategies of how we can deal with these other agencies and government entities. We do have the contract's asking for $600 a month for 1 year only, that we have a basically hire a consultant to actually almost lobby for us at these different levels, at the state and federal level, about getting our issues addressed for our coastal cities. These cities involve all the way from Del Mar up to Seal Beach. So it's quite a lot, or quite a variety of cities, but we all have those basic issues that I just mentioned. So Deputy Mayor, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes. So the actual cost here is associated with hiring the consultants to manage the meetings and put together who the speakers are and create an agenda, do the homework that we need to have done. So instead of us as one city, Oceanside, for example, going to the state or federal government and telling them that we need money for something because we're a coastal city, we will work with this whole group of coastal cities, 10 to 12 cities, and present a larger population to the federal or state governments and say we've got some number, 1.5 million people who need this tsunami, for example, issue addressed, and can you partner with us so that Oceanside isn't doing it separately from Carlsbad, who isn't doing it separately from Newport Beach. So by pooling our money together in this relatively small amount of cash, we can get a lot done if we work effectively with it. And so far we have addressed a bunch of issues and everyone seems very proactive. So I'm really encouraged by the potential for this. Instead of it being us having our staff be the only ones do all the work on coastal issues, we coordinate with other staff from other cities. So that's why we're suggesting we do this.
Public owners?
No public.
Back to the council. Thank you, Ms. Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We actually already have several organizations and coalitions that we participate with. So I am very concerned about the duplication of efforts and duplication of organizations. First of all, I looked at the meeting agenda for the October 19th meeting, and it looks like the cities involved are mostly Orange County cities. So it's Seal Beach, San Clemente, Laguna Beach, Huntington, Dana Point, and Newport. And then there's Carlsbad. I'm not really sure if that's still going to stay because Ms. Councilmember Lorraine Wood is no longer at Carlsbad. And I did get a chance to talk with Dwight Warden, council member for the city of Del Mar. They're probably not going to be joining this because it is a duplication of efforts. And plus, we don't have as much in common with Orange County, the good old C, as we do with the North Coastal cities. With all due respect to Orange County, I do not want to be Orange County. But we do have the Orange County Coastal Coalition that works with the county. We also have the Coastal Cities Issues Group, which is with the League of California Cities. We also have, and more importantly, I guess, California Coastal Coalition, and perhaps you don't know about that. That's a coalition. It's a nonprofit advocacy group comprised of 35 coastal cities, 5 counties, Sandag, Beacon, and Skag, private sector partners and NGOs, committed to protecting and restoring California's coastlines through beach sand restoration. All the things that was listed on that sheet, they've been working on them for several years. Actually, it was started in 1998. Oceanside was a founding member. And they have the website, they have, all this activity going on. And of course there's a shoreline preservation working group through the Sandag. And one of the things that, we're looking to do there is, see if we can bring up San Onofre. It looks like that's the one issue that is not included in the work, in the list of things, for these other organizations that we're involved in. That's certainly something that we can add. It's one item. I know no one wants to keep nuclear spent fuel on the coast, so that's a very easy thing. Plus, we Oceanside already have a lobbyist for federal issues, who's in Washington, D.C., and has served us really, really well. So I see here, again, a duplication of efforts. I recognize the cities as cities that have traditionally been involved with the Coastal Cities Issues Group of the League of California Cities. So it's almost like a recomposition of that effort. I think $7,200 doesn't sound like a lot, but since we're now starting to look at pennies and we have all these commitments that we already have made, like to addressing homeless issues, gang issues, whatever it is, that money could, I think, be actually more effective by keeping it here. So I think that one of the things that Councilmember Warden said was we've already submitted our letter. And we certainly will, if called on, we want to be involved in ensuring that we do not continue to store the nuclear waste here on the coast. Very dangerous thing to do. He is something that was not included on here. He said that he's very concerned that it was not included, which was environmental justice issues. Anyway, he indicated that Del Mar was probably not going to be involved. Thank you.
Mr. Kern.
Thank you. There's a whole list of groups that I've never heard of because I've never been to one of their meetings. I've never been invited. I don't know if the other council member has or not. I was very active in the Coastal Cities Issues Group with the League of California Cities for about 4 years. Unfortunately, the driver of that, Councilmember Jerry Mello of Fort Bragg, was killed, and he was the one who was holding that group together. And so after he died, the group kind of fell apart. I don't get any emails from them anymore. I don't hear anything from the League about the Coastal Cities Issues Group. And that group was basically designed to deal with Coastal Commission issues about development and modifications to the local coastal plans. So that's no longer in effect. So I think this group would be an effective group. And for 1 year, like I said, at the end of the year, if the council feels like they're not getting value for what they're spending, we don't do it. We don't renew. So the idea that this is an active group, they're an excited group, and we've had members from Del Mar and Encinitas and all the way up to Seal Beach. So, yeah, we may not be in Orange County, but we are a coastal city. So, and we can't deny that fact, and we have those issues in common. So the more that we have within this group, the more effective we are and the larger our voice is in Sacramento and with these agencies. So I'm going to move approval of this, and hopefully for the one-year contract, and I hope I can get support from the council.
Thank you. We have a second.
I'll second.
Mr. Feller, please.
Thank you. You know, I often question things that are an investment like this because I honestly don't know any city that isn't possessive of their own deal. And you know, they're not really interested in sharing. I'm willing to give it a year. I just, it's kind of like some of the other things that have gone on that you were on earlier, and you know, we just, if we don't take care of what we are responsible for ourselves, it's hard to have other people telling us what we ought to do, and so I'll give it the year. It probably won't break us, and you know, I'm going to guess that why don't you prove me wrong? So
okay. Just in response to that, cities are more than willing to share their problems. And so the idea that and when we get together and we talk about best practices and we talk about how other cities are addressing and solving our problems. I know Costa Mesa had a short-term rental problem and sober living units. You know, South Orange County is known as the Rehab Riviera. You know, we don't want to get there. We need help. And to see how they address those issues, and just to see what we can do at the state and federal level about legislation. You know, will something happen? I can't promise that, but all we can do is try.
Ms. Sanchez.
Thank you. I just want to add that North State or coastal states are already having those issues, and they're going through the process of addressing them. And I think we're learning a lot from their experiences. So we don't have to go all the way on the other side of Camp Pendleton to figure out what it is we need to do, and what would be the best way of addressing it. So I understand that you want to go ahead and spend $7,200 on this, but I just think it's a duplication of efforts, and we need to start cutting costs. Thanks.
Please vote.
Motion approved, 4-1, Sanchez, no.
Item 23 for Mr. Kern, please.
Yes, item number 23 is requested by Councilmember Kern to conduct a workshop on how the city is going to deal with Proposition 64, marijuana legalization, by no later than the end of April 2017. Discussion, direction to staff.
Okay, my only goal here tonight is to set the workshop and direct the city manager to set that. I assume there's a couple of speakers on this because I see some of the advocates in the audience. So let's go ahead and have them speak, and then we'll address the rest of it.
Yes, we have 4 speakers on this item. First, we have Jimmy Knott, followed by, 3 speakers on this item, followed by Pamela Myers, and last, Amber Newman.
Yes, council members, Mayor, Jimmy Knott, 127 Surrey Lane. I support this idea. It's a good idea because other cities are looking at marijuana bars, basically, setting up that type thing. And also distribution of homegrown marijuana kits, where anybody can go into, let's say, like a Home Depot type of situation, where you would pick up a marijuana growing kit with seeds and everything. So this is something I think that needs to be talked about, and whether one supports it or not, I think good public discourse is good. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. I think it is also a good idea to start talking about this and dealing with it because it's a real issue. I don't even know where to begin. We have a lot of smokers here in Oceanside. The train station, full of smokers. I personally have been exposed to a lot of secondhand smoke over the last 4 or 5 years taking the train, so I'm very concerned about what the laws are regarding marijuana smoke and how the city is going to deal with it. For example, I live in a condominium complex, and we have our own CCNRs and rules and regulations. What is the city, I know you don't have answers right now, but I just want to bring it to your attention that whatever you come up with, is that going to trump our CCNRs and rules and regulations? Quite frankly, I would like to have condominium, multi-unit complexes smoke-free. A lot of cities have it, and it's a real issue because there's nothing worse than living next to your neighbor and being smoked out by either the cigarette smoke or now a potential marijuana smoke. Definitely I'm for having workshops and getting public input on this, and I'm very concerned about it. And I'm glad you're bringing it forward because it is a real issue. And definitely advertise it so the public can come and have input on it. So, thank you.
Amber Newman, yeah.
Hi, Amber Newman. Obviously, we do applaud Councilman Kern's desire to open dialogue on the subject of cannabis and its future in Oceanside. While we've historically been on opposite sides of this fence, Oceanside voters overwhelmingly supported cannabis legalization in the last election, and your willingness to discuss the issue further as a result is encouraging. While we may all have different paths to the future, we all have the same goals, to make Oceanside an even better and safer community than it is today. And safety requires regulation. Regulation that will allow those who need cannabis to treat their respective ailment while keeping it out of the hands of our children. Regulation that will allow for access points in reasonable areas of our city while keeping dispensaries out of our neighborhoods and away from our schools, parks, and beaches. It is through regulation that we will be able to start attacking the black market in a meaningful way. It is regulation that will give us the means as a community to work together to shut down the street-level profiteers who don't check IDs, who create nuisances in our neighborhoods, who don't pay taxes. It is through regulation that Oceanside can increase its revenues that could actually be used to address some of the issues that we've heard about tonight. Regulation can also provide the framework for it to permit this burgeoning industry to participate in furthering education of our youth on the dangers of misusing medications, whether they come from a naturally grown plant or their parents' medicine cabinet. Cannabis regulation is a serious issue without a simple answer, and we thank Council for starting the conversation. We're excited to participate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. No further public on this item.
That's it. Thank you very much. Mr. Fowler?
Thank you. Along with moving forward with a workshop, I think we should have maybe states that have already approved something, have some professional input from whether it's Washington or Colorado, or so that we can get a feel for the results of it. So I'm willing to go forward with the workshop. I really don't, and probably never am going to approve of it. But it's just, I think there's a some genuine information we can get from the professionals that have dealt with the results of approving any of these regulations and how they are affected by their regulations. So that's my only comment.
Ms. Sanchez? Nope. Excuse me. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I know that jurisdictions throughout the state, cities, counties are having presentations and talking about how to deal with this new law if there are any changes. Our city attorney brought forward some recommendations early on, even before this, and so we do allow marijuana into Oceanside via delivery, and so there is definitely access to medicinal marijuana in Oceanside. That's already happening. So, I'm fine with doing the presentation. This will give a chance for everyone to speak. I know I've been getting lots of complaints about marijuana smoke next door. Say they're outside, and it just filters in, and then people say, well, it's so very difficult. They'll say, well, why don't they just cook it or something and, make brownies or something. But it is a nuisance, and I guess eventually we'll be looking at ways, if we can address it, I don't know. But certainly, say next to a school or something, there are some situations where probably ought to be some kind of a zone where you don't have, like smoke coming into a school. So anyway, I'll support the workshop, and I'm sure we'll be hearing from citizens who are absolutely opposed as well as those who are for. But I just want to assure everyone that we do allow marijuana in Oceanside for medicinal purposes delivery. It's already happening. And I've never known a time when it could not, somebody couldn't have access to marijuana. I mean, since I was in high school, back in the 70s, I knew that people were having access to it. I didn't know where. I didn't ask. I didn't really want to ask. Anyway, that's basically it. I'm very concerned about what happened with the dispensaries that were here illegally and what they did to my neighborhood, and it increased the black market in my neighborhood. Our kids were riding around on bicycles selling. It may be that on paper, it sounds good that it's going to, certain things will no longer happen, but in reality, that's just not true. All right, thank you.
City Manager, please.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. Councilmember Kerr, Mayor, council members, just a clarification. Are there any particular items, specific ones that you want us to address in the workshop?
I think it should be wide-ranging. The only thing, the request I'll probably make, and it probably goes to the city attorney about finding out ordinances from other cities. The Newmans actually sent me something from Long Beach, but to see how other cities are handling this through ordinances or...
Yes, we can do that.
Yeah, so...
And I have many of them already.
Yeah.
I think it's probably also important for you to see. So you'll see regulatory structures from outright prohibitions to something else, what other cities have done. We could review those. We could address the issues. I think it's important for you to get a detailed overview of what Prop 64 actually does. So I think a lot of your concerns about public smoking and things like that can be addressed. And then I think we'll probably touch upon some of the labor issues. You have 1,000 employees, and so there are labor issues associated with this and policies that we've already implemented.
Right, you
that you
can't
need to be
test
aware of that.
positive, otherwise you
Exactly.
cannot,
Right.
you're out.
To sort of dispel some notions about, whether employees can smoke marijuana and things like that. So I think we could address a whole host of these issues that you'll be interested in.
Yeah, I understand from just talking to staff that we have the hair test. And that marijuana stays in the system for 6 months, maybe up to a year, and if you test positive, you don't work at City of Oceanside. So it doesn't matter if you smoked 6 months ago, a year ago, I think that's a good policy to have. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I think what's most important here, in addition to getting all this infrastructure discussed, is that people in the community like Pam and like the Newmans are able to bring in their comments. So if they think yes or they think no, they can express that. And if they can't make it to the meeting, they can send us an email and say what their concerns are. So you don't have to be down here to come to these meetings to participate. Just send us an email and we will read the emails. We may not respond to all of them, but at least you know that we will listen to what you have to say when you send us an email to the city council address that you can find on the city website. That goes to all of us up here, including the city attorney and the city manager. So one message is recognized and read by 7 people, and it becomes part of the public record. So what you state to us by email is important. If you can come to the meeting, awesome. We've got plenty of seats here. If there's a lot of people coming, we put more seats in the outside lobby area. So please watch for that date, and we look forward to hearing from you so that we know what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Closing shot for me. Ladies and gentlemen, this is new. I thought that sooner or later marijuana in this state would be authorized. I thought it would be a little later than this, but it's here now. The sad part is I don't think we're prepared for it. We don't know all the regulations for neighbors and everything else. We want to get some feedback how other cities and other states handle this for some of the good and bad. And this is just our way of saying we need to catch up what's going on and how's it going to work. We even had people calling us, how about cultivation of marijuana out in Moral Hills, where we're having a agriculture issue. They could potentially do cultivation out there legally, even though the feds still think it's illegal. And we want to find out all those things. That's what this is for, and I appreciate Mr. Kern putting it on. Thank you. Thank you very much. And with that, I think we're going to have to break for a moment.
Just one quick question.
Go ahead.
Just for city manager, city attorney, is there any further direction you need from us? I will let the city manager set the date that what she feels is appropriate. So by the end of April, but I don't know which Wednesday in April.
I think we're good.
We don't need a vote on that. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, as you're out there standing, we'll come on back in. I take a 5-minute break, get organized for the next staff, 6 o'clock. Thank you. And we're going to take a 5-minute break. Thank you. A little bit long. Sorry for that. Am I able to explain things? Generally speaking, we'll have people, presentations and awards. The invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance is usually first. And will you take my lead on this?
Please stand for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight's invocation will be given by City Clerk Jack Beck.
Please join me in bowing our heads. Father, we come before you to say thank you. Thank you for the privilege, the blessing, the honor it is to reside here in the city of Oceanside. We come together tonight as a diverse community, community of different backgrounds, different beliefs, different presence, and different futures, yet one common goal, and that is the betterment of the city. We come together tonight to seek your guidance, wisdom, and discernment during the deliberations that transpire this evening, and in doing so, we lift up Councilmember Feller, Councilmember Kern, Councilmember Sanchez, Deputy Mayor Lowry, and Mayor Wood. May you grant them peace and wisdom as they move our city forward into a prosperous and productive future. And we say all these things in your precious name. Amen.
Tonight's Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Scott Ashton, CEO of the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce.
Please join me in the pledge. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. At this time, I'd like to call forward the Mayor's Business Member Spotlight recipients. Shauna Jordan, please come forward, and Joe Woods, her husband. Shauna is the owner of Jordan and Jordan Marketing.
Good evening, everyone. My name again is Scott Ashton. I'm the CEO of the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce, and we're pleased to be able to recognize Shauna Jordan tonight of Jordan and Jordan Marketing as our Oceanside Chamber Member of the Month. And I just want to tell you a little bit about Shauna. Shauna's company was founded in 2002, and she's been a chamber member since 2003. And Jordan Marketing has helped hundreds of small business owners and entrepreneurs over North County develop their brand, their marketing materials, and their marketing language, along with providing marketing strategy, education, and training workshops. Owner Shauna Jordan says when it comes to your marketing, what you say is as important as how you say it. How ironic that I fumbled that line. In addition to their marketing services, Jordan and Jordan produces two large events. One is will be happening here in Oceanside next week, and it's called the Business Explosion, and it will be taking place on Thursday, January 26th from 2 to 6 at the QLN Conference Center, and it's a business expo, so I encourage you to come out to that event.
I just want to say thank you to the entire Oceanside community at the Oceanside Chamber. I did a little statistics when I was first starting out and joined the Chamber, and I was able to attribute 30% of my new business directly from referrals from the Chamber of Commerce. So that was pretty awesome. So it's just been a pleasure for almost 15 years now. Thank you so much.
She's my wife.
I believe that's the boss that already spoke anyhow. Thank you, congratulations, and a photo op, please. Congratulations, please. Thank you very much. Go to item number 21.
Yes, item number 21 is adoption of a resolution upholding Planning Commission Resolution number 2016-P40, approving a 4-unit, 3-story townhome apartment building with enclosed parking on a 0.23-acre site located at 1422 Marquette Street, Marquette Fourplex, Development Plan D15-00025, and regular coastal permit RC15-00011. Applicant Jason Brandt, appellant George Hernandez.
As mayor, I'll open this public hearing and request council disclosure. Start with you.
I've had the applicant, some of the appellant, neighborhood people, as well as been to the site, and I think that's it.
Applicants, a few residents, maybe about 4 sent emails.
applicant, the public, and a few other people, phone calls, emails.
I've met with the applicant, with the appellant, with neighbors, residents of East Side. I also went to the site. And staff.
Yeah, I met with the applicant. I actually walked the site, talked to staff, and we had public input.
Thank you. With that, also correspondence, petitions.
All materials been provided to the council.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Cunningham. Good evening. Thank you very much. Good seeing you.
Mayor Wood, council members, good evening. Russ Cunningham with the city's planning division. Before you this evening is a project that I bring to you on behalf of project manager Antoinette Gibbs, who has recently left the city's employment. Unanimously approved by the Planning Commission on October 24th of last year, the project comes to you on appeal. The appellant, Eastside resident Mr. George Hernandez, has outlined 4 principal points of appeal. I'll summarize these points and I'll provide a brief response to each. I don't intend to provide an in-depth project description, but I can, of course, provide more detail in response to your questions. A little bit of background. The subject property lies within the city's coastal zone while being somewhat removed from the beach, and it is thus subject to what we refer to as the 1986 zoning ordinance. The 1986 zoning ordinance designates the property and the immediate area as R3, which is considered a medium-density residential designation that allows for up to 29 dwelling units per acre. The 1986 zoning ordinance was reinstated within the entire coastal zone, including portions of the East Side community, in 2009. Prior to that reinstatement, the subject property and the immediate area was designated for roughly a 17-year period for single-family residential use. We recognize that the reinstatement of the R3 zoning has created concern among some East Side residents, including long-standing property owners who advocated for single-family zoning in the late 80s and the early 90s. We can't explain why the city did not pursue Coastal Commission certification of the 1992 zoning ordinance update. We can only say that the Coastal Commission recognizes officially the 1986 zoning ordinance as the operative zoning code for the entire coastal zone, including those portions of East Side that lie within the coastal zone boundary. It's important to note that the applicant, Mr. Jason Brandt, conducted extensive due diligence in advance of making application for this project and confirmed on multiple occasions with multiple planners at the public counter and over the phone that the subject property currently allows for multifamily residential uses, again at densities up to 29 dwelling units per acre. Here's the project site in an aerial photo. It is adjacent to a finger of Lawrence Canyon, which extends down to the San Luis Rey River. Just out of the frame, or perhaps slightly in the frame to the north, is Laurel Elementary School. Just in the frame at the lower right corner is Balderrama Park. The east side commercial area is just outside of the frame to the south. And as I mentioned, Lawrence Canyon, a finger thereof, extends up to the back of the property. The proposal involves a 4-unit, 3-story townhome apartment building on the subject property. Each unit would be served by an enclosed 2-car garage. Additional parking would be furnished in the driveways. I will show you those driveways in just a moment. Landscape on the site would include planter areas within the front yard setback area, as well as grass-cleat driveways. The grading plan provides for additional building pad area toward the rear of the lot while maintaining a substantial rear yard, which you'll see in the next slide. The building includes street-facing entrances with covered porches, second-story balconies, and a variety of finished materials and architectural details, and I'll show those to you. So here's the site plan. Highlighted in gray here is the building footprint, which relative to the size of the lot is a relatively small percentage compared to other development in the vicinity. These green areas are planter areas at the street frontage, and they separate two driveways. These are the grass-cleat driveways that provide for additional permeable surface in the front yard. These are side and rear yard areas along the perimeter of the building that would include a combination of hardscape, permeable hardscape, and ground cover. And here's the rear of the lot that would remain as open space. Some grading activity would occur in this area, but much of the existing landscape would remain in this area, and no development would occur in these areas. Here are the south and west facing elevations. The south elevation is the street facing elevation. What you see here are 4 street facing entrances. You see exterior walls that feature both stucco and lap siding. A trellis element is visible above the garages. Other architectural details include those around the windows, and you see an abundance of windows, abundance of fenestration on this front elevation. You also see here that the third story steps back away from the front and side yards. Here's the rear elevation and the east-facing side yard elevation. You see many of those same elements. What I would point out again is the extent to which the third story steps back from the side yards, and also point out the balconies on the second level that we believe would provide eyes on the canyon as the rear elevation faces into that finger of Lawrence Canyon. Here's a 3D rendering of the proposed building, and for comparative purposes, here's a 3D rendering of the initial design concept, what we received in the first submittal. You can see a unarticulated third story that occupies essentially the entire building footprint. Staff expressed concern about the potential massing impacts of this design. We heard the same from members of the community. We worked with the applicant to reduce that massing impact and the overall bulk and scale of the project through the articulation of that third story. Here's the property as viewed from Marquette Street. You can see a little strip of planter area in front of that sidewalk. That area would be landscaped.
Secondly, there's no short-time leases. It's been proven throughout the community, the short-time leases end up with, say, either rentals turned on fire because of their, how they rebel against the landlord. Numerous. All this is basically logged into the fire department. I spoke with them on this matter. Thirdly is a 10-year lease of ownership. Okay, and a 10-year lease approval of Oceanside by the City Council on 1436 Duke Street. This was approved by City Council. So this is why I'm bringing it up. So there is room in language more or less they can more or less hold him to this or bind him to this agreement if he chooses more or less for him to go on with this project. Okay. So his surrounding neighbors, neighborhood may be, they have some kind of say on this project. Okay, the parking around his areas and whatever and all that, and this would more or less say for those cars that you've seen parked on that lot, as soon as he builds, they will have more to say ample parking surrounding their homes, where they won't be bothered by additional parking. Okay, on the east side, for every third driveway, as I mentioned to the city attorney, that's all there is every third home has a driveway. Some do not. Okay, currently on corner of Santa Barbara and Marquette and 1415 Marquette. These 4-unit, apartments have just acquired a new ownership. So if you buy him, more or less say, for his 10-year lease, this will not more or less say happen as it happened on the one on Dubuque Street. He hired more or less a consultant to look into it, and they found language the city council had put more or less on his conditional use permit. He got out of it. 3-4 years, he sold it and moved on. In the community, to consider, to direct, engineering. For city council members to direct engineering to look at the 1986 or 1990 zoning to roll it back to the original, more or less, R1 residential. And by that, I also appeal to the city of Oceanside, the community surrounding, to send their emails, to council, and to favor this. Because if you read this on there, it shows the problems that back since 1947 to 62 that this community has been dealing with ongoing. And for, roughly 24 years. And we also found out that we were we were in agreement, more or less, understanding that we were protected by the zoning law. We found out that we were not. Mike Blessing, more or less, didn't pass on, or whatever it is that needed to be done for approval of this did not happen. So like I say, 24 years later, here we are again, back to step one. And this is why I'm appealing more or less to the surrounding residents, to the city of Oceanside, is help the east side more or less correct this wrong that was done by whoever may lie on. And I'm also asking more or less with the city clerk, more or less for the last time we met here with the Coastal Commission, some people that came up and spoke up for this project did not use proper language, and this is why I'm reserving my choice, more or less to put a rebuttal on this or choose not to. So if you have any questions.
Not right now, George.
I'll leave this on so people can more or less continue reading on. Thank you.
And the appellant still has 14 minutes for rebuttal after the applicant and public goes. So this time we'll call for the applicant for 20 minutes.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Jason Brandt. I'm the property owner of 1422 Marquette Street, located in the East Side neighborhood of our beautiful city of Oceanside. I've lived in Oceanside and have family born and raised here. I'm a local general contractor that has had the opportunity to install access ramps, lift systems for veterans, build new homes, make home improvements, and remodel projects here in Oceanside, North County, in San Diego County. I love seeing the growth and improvements that have been happening over the past 20 years, and I'm proud to be part of that here in the city of Oceanside. I've been invested in the Marquette property to build the fourplex for a couple of reasons. One is to further the growth and improvements of the East Side neighborhood, and two, for my family to have an investment in a city that I love, with all intent purposes to keep it in my family and one day pass it along to my son. When I started this project, My goal has always been to be sensitive to the residents' concerns and comply with city building department's procedures and staff requests. As a result, I had my engineer, my architect, and my draftsman redesign the original proposed plans to underdevelop the property by proposing a less density building that the majority of the existing surrounding apartments complexes to preserve Lawrence Canyon. The lots are currently being used as an access point into the neighborhood, a dumping ground for trash, a parking lot, gang and drug activity, shooting off fireworks, and more importantly, unwanted vagrancy. By approving this project, it will put a stop to the misuse of this property and will provide 4 families with a quality home to live in. If you look at all my planning and staff reports, they prove that I'm complying with all the city codes and requests. There is a lack of new housing in Oceanside, and this project site is identified in the city's current housing element as contributing to the city's capacity to meet its RHNA requirements to be met by the year 2020. Before I started planning this project back in July of 2015, I met with Scott Nightingale and Antoinette Gibbs, both Oceanside city planners, to verify that the 2 lots were zoned R3 and that I was able to build a 4-plex unit on these lots. Also, my realtor verified the zoning information as well to make sure I was hearing this correctly. I was informed that we were both informed that its R3 zoning and the apartment building could be built and we could have up to 6 units, which I'm only requesting 4 units. Since then, I've met with several Oceanside Planning Commission members and Oceanside building planners during the redesign process to make sure that this project is 100% compliant, which everybody has confirmed yes. They have since approved the project with the unanimous 5-0 vote at the Planning Commission meeting a few months ago. The building plans are almost ready for permits to be pulled, then I can actually start construction. However, without approval tonight, there'll be further delays involved. So I'm asking for your support and that you could please consider approving the Marquette project tonight so that we may move forward with improving our Oceanside Eastside neighborhood. I'm actually going to save the rest of my time for rebuttal. I've got quite a few pictures here.
Okay, you don't get rebuttal. You need to put all your evidence on the record right now. Under our rules, the appellant will have the balance of his time. So you each get 20 minutes. Okay. But you need to exhaust everything you want to say right now.
Okay, that's okay. So in regards to what George said, there's only 2 comments I have with that. The first thing is going to be parking. There are many people not using their garages throughout the neighborhood. In handing out, back in February, I did a community outreach meeting for the property. So I actually walked around before the meeting, walked around through the alleyways, paid close attention to a lot of the garages in the neighborhood, and found a great amount of garages that are not being used, which would definitely put an end to the parking problem that George has mentioned about. As far as long-term leases, I don't look for short-term tenants. I am the person that will build the property. I'll be the person that then rents the property, and I screen the tenants myself. So I look for tenants that want to actually be a part of the neighborhood and that want to stay long-term. I'm going to go ahead and just show some pictures here. Okay. So that's my building site right there. You can see the 11-unit building that's behind my property. You can see next to it where the blue building is. You can see basically 8 units where that blue building is. A couple others. That one in there. If you go down to the end of Marquette to McNeil Street and you look across the vacant lot, you can see this condo complex of 3-story buildings, and that's very close proximity to my apartment building here. This is a fourplex that's 190 feet away from my property. I think it's a great example. It's a lot more density, of course, than my project. But it's another example of a 3-story fourplex that's only 190 feet away from my property. Where my property is located, there's a lot of fourplexes, sixplexes, 12plexes, a lot of apartment buildings in that area of Marquette and the surrounding streets there. This is a 3-story house that's within a couple blocks from the property as well. That's a 3-story church just 2 streets away from me as well. I'm not going to go on with all the apartment complex pictures. I took quite a few pictures of apartment complexes just to show what some of them look like in the neighborhood. Put that one back. Another one. Here's that one. This is 6 units directly across the street from me. So I've got 4 units. I've got actually 8 units next door to me. I've got 6 units across the street from me. And behind where there could be an alleyway, instead of preserving Lawrence Canyon, instead of putting in the alleyway, I've got 11 units, which I've showed you. Now I'm going to go ahead and move on to the trash. I've cleaned trash off this property 3 times or more, probably about 4 times actually since I've been the property owner. Every time I clean trash up, it ends up with trash. You can see a shopping cart, a bag of concrete, tons of broken glass and broken bottles on the property. This is a drainage pipe that drains in the Lawrence Canyon. And if you look at this drainage pipe, it's filled with trash. It's actually a doghouse upside down, a shopping cart. It's hard to see there, but there's actually even an oil can sitting there. Like somebody drained the oil out of their car and just left it down there. And again, I've cleaned this trash up multiple times. There's quite a bit of concrete that's been dumped on the property. So here's a concrete footing that somebody's dumped on the property with a piece of rebar sticking out. There's more examples of concrete, but I don't need to show you guys all the pictures tonight. That's just more trash, confused trash, just littered everywhere. Here's the one of the oil container. So you can see lower bottom there, an oil container, that same shopping cart, a doghouse that's upside down. Here's another example of trash from somebody probably living on the property for a night. Every other time I come to the property, it seems to be different clothes littered around this area. It seems to be changing. So I believe at nighttime we have people that come up through Lawrence Canyon, through my property, and decide to stay the night on my property. Again, there's been fences that have been put up. The fences are just removed. There's a tire somebody dumped on the property. And here's broken glass in the street. This picture, even though you guys have seen it, this is from Friday. I took this picture on Friday when I was actually out at the property just to show the amount of trash that's there. Again, I know I've said it quite a few times, I continue to clean this trash up, and this is how it ends up after I clean up trash. So by putting this fourplex in, I can actually gate this, I can closely watch it, I can have my tenants closely watch it. It's going to put an end to this trash that's going on there, and it's going to further protect my property and Lawrence Canyon. think I'm going to go ahead and conclude with everything. I think I've showed you guys enough evidence as to everything that's going on the property. Again, I'm building something that's a lot less in density than the surrounding apartment complexes. There's quite a few apartment complexes next to my property. I'm local here in Oceanside. All I want to do is just build this to help clean up the neighborhood. I've been very involved with community meetings. I've been very receptive to everybody's thoughts and concerns. So please consider approving my apartment complex tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
This time we'll move forward to public. First, 4 speakers, and I'm going to call people who turn in forms first, and then I'll call in people who haven't turned forms after that. Our first 4 speakers are Diana Gaiardi, Donna McGinty, Ann Sturt, and Martin Stout.
Hi, good evening. My name is Diana Gaiardi. I am Jason's realtor, and during the process, he asked that I go down and visit the planning department to confirm that it was approved, and Annette said absolutely. He was within his rights. I know that throughout the process, I was at the meeting at the site. He's met with neighbors, talked about how to resolve parking, redone his plans. He's bent over backwards really trying to accommodate and work with all of the neighbors that live there. He's a great guy. I know that he's going to manage it himself. I don't know anybody who would want bad tenants in there for short term. And I don't quite understand this whole process of appealing it and costing him so much money when everything at the Planning Commission said that it was approved. So, thank you.
Hi, my name is Donna McGinty, 2405 Mesa Drive. I had a little chat with Terry Johnson last night while he was vacationing in Panama City, Panama. And we had a little discussion about the 1986 code and how the 1992 code was supposed to get back to the city council and get recorded, and it didn't happen. And so here we are still working with 1986 code until you folks currently are trying to mend that fence. For the time being, 1986 rules. This young guy is trying to make an improvement in that neighborhood that is sorely needed. I've lived in this city for 75 years, and finally someone is willing to invest money in a neighborhood that sorely needs the help. And young people need decent places to live, and the seniors for that matter. And he's trying to do something good in that neighborhood with a piece of property that's been a load of junk for years. It's a pig pen. No one cleans it up. They don't take care of it. He owns it. They come along and trash it, and he has to pick up behind them. If they did that in my neighborhood, they would in the last 10 minutes. In any case, I think the fact that 1986 code rules in his favor at this point in time needs to be the absolute rule. Anyone comes behind him, if you folks are changing that, the 1992 amendment is going through right now, if they want to make an attempt to go the direction he's going and you choose not to honor another plan of that nature or more building in that design and that nature, providing housing, which we really need badly in the city, then do it after you've corrected the problem that was left for you all in 1990 and 1992. The city council in 1992 dropped the ball. Dropped the ball. That's what Terry Johnson tells me. It didn't get done, they didn't follow through, and voila, we're still living with 1986. If you don't want anybody else coming in there improving it, go with the change now, get it done, put them all on notice right now before they have to spend money going through planning and building and permitting and listening to Cunningham, poor guy, try to explain to him you can't do it anymore because we've changed the code now. If you don't want improvements and you want a bunch of dirty, vacant lots to continue to be over there, well then, carry on. I agree that he needs to be absolutely allowed to continue. Thank you.
Our next speaker is, I think, Anna Sterit. Sterett. Oh, there. Oh, I'm so sorry. My apologies. No, my apologies.
So, just use this one?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. My name is Anna Stout. My family owns the 10-unit apartment building that's behind the Marquette Street one facing Shoshone Street and the two vacant lots next to it. And I can tell you that having vacant lots in the city of Oceanside is a very difficult thing. In the past 6 months, we had our street light that we installed in the vacant lot to give light to the area because there's not enough street lights on the street itself, so we paid for that. We had people come in and throw rocks at it until they broke it, and I know this because of our cameras, until they broke it so that they could engage in some improper and probably illegal activities in some cars and in our lots during the night. And our tenants told us about it the next day. So this is the kind of thing, the kind of activities that go on in these vacant lots when there's nothing there. And then the canyon is right there, and then the vacant lot that Mr. Brandt wants to turn into the fourplexes. This will not only beautify the neighborhood, but in my opinion will make it so much safer because we won't have another vacant lot for people to engage in illegal activities, and we won't have, the good people that live there, like our tenants, who, be afraid of going out in that area at night because they don't know what's going to come out of the canyon, out of the shadows, into this area where we know a lot of unsavory activity goes on. So in terms of safety and protecting the neighborhood, I think this development is going to be a major improvement. I also want to say that, having grown up in Oceanside, downtown Oceanside was not a place I wanted to go in the early 70s. There's been so much work to beautify the city, to improve the city. I mean, this whole development here with the library and the city center and everything are wonderful, and Mission Street. And I feel like this development that Mr. Brandt wants to do is along the same lines as that, and that will continue to improve the personality of Oceanside so that it's a wonderful place to be. And frankly, it's I've had two people tell me in the last week that it and Imperial Beach are the only affordable places near the coast in San Diego County, period. So people are coming here. We can't stop the density, but we can maybe have it be of a limited and beautiful nature. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Martin Stout.
Good evening, Council. I also am Anna's brother, so we own the apartments right across the canyon. My brother couldn't be here tonight, but he asked me to read a letter to you guys concerning it, and I can vouch for all the things he's saying in here, but I'm just going to read it straight off to you guys. I'm writing to you regarding the 1422 Marquette Street project in Oceanside for Jason Brandt. Our family owns the two vacant lots across the canyon from Jason Brandt's lots that are in front of Shoshone Street, as well as the apartment building at 1425 and the residence at 1431 Shoshone Street. Our family has owned these properties for 45 years, and we have spent thousands of dollars trying to keep the canyon behind our vacant lots clean and debris-free. The canyon is an extension of the city alley that is directly behind our apartment building at 1425 and is owned by the city of Oceanside. According to the city officials I've spoken with over the years, it is not a priority to keep that canyon cleaned up. I have personally removed needles, broken glass, drug paraphernalia, and furniture. I've done this too. I know my brother's cleaned that canyon 10 times. I've cleaned it at least 5. I don't know how many times Mr. Brandt's cleaned it. But I pulled out old engine parts, broken furniture, drug paraphernalia, And it usually fills up 2 full dumpsters every time we clean it out, and it has to be pulled out by ropes because the canyon's so steep. So it's a 3 or 4 man job. It takes all day to clean that canyon. Anyway, that's my side. But back to the letter. There are a lot of children that play in Shoshone and Marquette streets, and I personally witnessed criminals running through Mr. Brandt's property in the alley and along our apartment building to escape the pursuit of law enforcement. I've witnessed this too myself. After a lengthy conversation with a police officer from the OPD gang unit, he stated that sealing off that access through Mr. Brandt's property would greatly increase the safety and security of our neighborhood by denying criminals an escape route. A developed fourplex with security fencing around it would accomplish that. The development that Mr. Brandt has proposed is both classy and well thought out. If Mr. Brandt is willing to put his financial wherewithal on the line and invest in our neighborhood, I consider that a win-win situation, and it speaks to Mr. Brandt's confidence in our neighborhood. Our family wholeheartedly supports Mr. Brandt's endeavors and applauds his willingness to make a substantial investment in the future of the neighborhood. I hope and pray that you will look favorably upon this project as our family does. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Our next 4 speakers are Joanna Kroon, Diane Schrader, Dean Norman, and Jonathan Brandt.
Mayor, Council, my name is Joanna Kroon. I am a resident and property owner in Eastside neighborhood. As both a landlord and resident, I wholeheartedly support and approve this building project. My husband and I have worked hard to help improve the neighborhood by acquiring our properties in the neighborhood in which we live, so that we can continue to improve the quality of life in Eastside and to show that we care about the neighborhood in which we live. I believe Mr. Brandt's project will continue this trend. This lot has been both a bane and a danger to the neighborhood, with trash that is littered, bulk items that should be removed by waste management, a corridor for both gangs and transients that live in Lawrence Canyon, and a forum for setting off fireworks, which pose a serious threat, not only to my house, but to a couple of my rental properties as well. They could start fires in the canyon, burn down homes. By approving this project and allowing Mr. Brandt to build his proposed housing unit, he will be addressing 2 additional problems the neighborhood has. First, there's a need for more housing, and this project will provide that. Parking is also an issue in the neighborhood. And Mr. Brandt has made sure that the design of his project will not only accommodate multiple cars for each resident, but will avoid putting additional cars on the street. He's also demonstrated that he wants to be a part of this neighborhood and has family ties here. He's participated in the Eastside Neighborhood Association, gave a large donation of soccer balls to the soccer team in the neighborhood, has contributed to the recycling program for the E&A scholarship. He's listened to the neighbors and City of Oceanside staff to address concerns and make changes to his building plan to accommodate these concerns. He also plans, as he said, to be the manager, which demonstrates that he will not be an absentee landlord, nor is he going to build it and sell it for profit. He has stated that he will address any concerns that neighbors have and may have in the future with any of his tenants. He's certainly been very open with us at this point. Mr. Brandt has spent additional time, effort, and finances to meet and exceed the residential zoning requirements for the neighborhood and address the concerns that were brought up by the Planning Commission. The project does not violate the LCP and is very consistent with the character of Eastside neighborhood. This project also does not violate the density of the footprint of the proposed lot site, as it can, according to code, accommodate up to 6 units, and the design is only for 4. Furthermore, this project is within walking distance of many of the services within the community, including grocery stores, the post office, the senior center, several parks and recreation facilities, etc. Mr. Brandt's project clearly meets the current code standards for the neighborhood at Oceanside. This building project is not only a good thing for the Eastside neighborhood, it's a good thing for the city of Oceanside itself. For these reasons, I would strongly encourage a unanimous vote by the council to approve this project. Thank you.
Honorable Mayor Woods and the council members, I'm Diane Strader. I'm a resident of the East Side. In fact, I live on Marquette, the same place where this complex is supposed to go in. I'm going to say something off script here. When I first met Mr. Brandt at that February open meeting that he had, he knows I was adamantly against his project because of parking issues, because of landscaping, lots of different issues. After the meeting was over, he met with me for probably another half hour, showing me his plans, showing what he wanted to do, and still was on board. However, tonight, I'm here to ask you to adopt the resolution upholding the Planning Commission's resolution 2016-P40 and approving the development plan D15-00025 and the regular coastal permit RC15-00011 to allow this 4-unit complex to be built at 1422 Marquette. I have changed what I wanted to say to you folks from what I said at the Planning Commission. You've already heard most of it, so I'm going to go pretty quickly here. It is important to state right up front that Jason Brandt has met the zoning designation. He's done it. How many laws does he have to pretend to jump through when he's already met the law that you presently have on the books? It's not his fault that there was other things that didn't get done. That's on you folks now. May not have been back when, but it is now. This project can be up to 6 units. He has chosen to make it a 4-unit one. So this is not a man who is showing a whole lot of greed. As already been stated, he will not be an S&T landlord. As already been stated, he is providing a place that I think is a little classy, and we need classy stuff in the neighborhood. And in addition to that, he is, let's face it, this is an investment for him, yes. I mean, I would be stupid to think that he's not going to make some money somewhere along the line. But it is not a landlord who wants the revenue only. He has participated over and over again in our community, and he has shown he wants to be a good neighbor to all of us. Please approve this.
Mayor, council members, thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm a relatively new resident of North County, San Diego. In fact, I live in Encinitas, but I go surfing in the harbor over there. I hope that's okay. And the reason I came here tonight is because I wanted to speak in support of Mr. Brandt. I'm a client of Mr. Brandt. He's done some fantastic work on my property. He's an excellent craftsman. He does the work himself. But the real reason I was excited to speak for him is that I worked for 35 years for the Department of Veterans Affairs at Los Angeles VA and most recently at the San Diego VA before I retired, or sort of retired rather. And I learned from Mr. Brandt, first, that he's enthusiastic about his community. In fact, he will talk nonstop about his ideas for improving the community. But second, he does something unique for VA, and that is that he cares for disabled veterans who need construction done for ramps, lifts, things that will allow disabled veterans to stay in their home. And there are plenty of veterans in San Diego, as you all know. When I talked to my colleagues at the VA in San Diego, I found out he's a well-respected contractor who does excellent work, which is no surprise to me because he's done great work for me. He cares about the community. He's an excellent craftsman. I don't know much about the project, but I could see it's really taking an empty piece of land that's being used as a trash dump and turning it into something very nice. So I hope you'll vote for his project. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Brandt.
I am here to support the approval in the October 24, 2016 decision of the Planning Commission to allow a lot merger and construction of a new 4-unit complex with attached garages on a lot located at 1422 Marquette Street. There is no question about its compliance with zoning. Every single member of the City Planning Department has weighed in, saying that this 4-unit planned residence is completely conforming and legal in every way. There are at least 100 units in the East Side neighborhood that already exist as part of 2, 3, 4, 6, or 12-plex units. The Planning Commission unanimously approved this development, agreeing with locals that have said it is common knowledge that this complex would be a welcome change from the vagrants who use it as a pathway to the canyon, those using it as a trash disposal lot, and those using it as a parking lot on street sweeping day. Jason has responded to specific neighborhood concerns beyond the minimum required by including an architectural redesign to avoid a blocky structure. I ask that you consider the facts provided here tonight by voting yes on approving this Marquette project tonight in order to help prevent this empty lot from continually being misused. Thank you.
Our next 4 speakers are Sean Cassidy, Ken Carries, T.H. Brooks, and Maria Russell.
Good evening, Mayor Wood and council members. Sean Cassidy, financial consultant, developer, lender. I've worked directly here with Mr. Brandt on this particular project from day one when he came to me with his building credentials to let us know it's something that when we look to place financing for a particular individual, we want to exhaust the developer in terms of his competency in the particular profession, his field, his experience. You've heard people discuss that tonight, and he obviously has that. I think the most important thing that I want to share with this group tonight, I think it's a real simple concept, and I've been in a development situation myself as a developer. You've got procedures, you've got a master plan, you have guidelines, you have restrictions, and you have codes. This individual has exhausted that process, and I repeat, exhausted that process in full cooperation with your planning staff to the nth degree. He's bent over backwards to accommodate and make serious changes, as you've heard tonight, to that architectural design that's cost him dearly. Why? Because this man has empathy and compassion for the needs of the local residents that have spoken before you here tonight. What more does this individual need to do? He's within guidelines. He's cooperated with the local residents. You've got a trash dump, as everybody's talked about. We're talking about beautification of the area. We're talking about increasing values in the area, that he's going to add value to the other properties in the area by bringing a nice project there. Density, not an issue. Where is the objection outside of pure politics? That's a sad commentary when somebody wants to invest his capital, his time, in a beautiful community like Oceanside, which I grew up into as a young kid, and we have a couple people, or a handful of people in here, for whatever political groundless reasons, want to treat this like a political football. I think that's a sad commentary. So I am optimistic and confident, Mayor Wood and members of this council, that you're going to support a project based on its merits that's good for the community. We're all about improving the city of Oceanside and what's best for this community. And Mr. Brandt, with his personal commitment, think, in his presentation, and he has the backing of the community. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Council. My name is Ken Chris. It's hard. I've been here a few times, but I usually speak as the developer's rep, and that's the first time I ever filled out a request to speak card. So that was kind of interesting. Begin with, I'm not the architect of the project, okay? So I was asked by a friend to look at the project from a planning standpoint and an architectural standpoint because, quote, yeah, I'm an expert at it. I've done an awful lot of jobs thinking, how do I describe it? I've probably done 3,000 houses in the city of Oceanside. That doesn't count a number of commercials and other elements that have been part of this community for 40 plus years as an architect. I looked at the project and I looked at the progress that the client has made with the city staff. And I was very pleased. I've done projects in the area. I've done really high-density projects in the area, density bonuses for seniors on the Beach Street, and it's something that you have contributed to, that I have contributed to. I personally found this project to be of very high quality, of an improvement to the community, an asset. I use the word at the Planning Commission because it needs to be said. You take a blighted piece of property, and that's a dirty word usually, but this is going to take it to a point where it's an asset to the community. And I'm very glad he's doing the project, and I hope that you support him in his construction and approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Honorable Council people and public. My name is Maria Russell. My husband and I own a home in the East Side for the past 16 years, and we have enjoyed living there and raising our twin boys there. I also served as president of the East Side Association for the past 5 years. It's important to me that we maintain the character of our neighborhood as a single-family residential community. I appreciate the fact that Mr. Brent wants to build a property in our neighborhood on a vacant lot. However, this project is multi-unit property, and that is something that could really start a dangerous precedent. In our single-family neighborhood. Crown Heights is an example of a neighborhood that was created through the lack of vision, and it has now become densely populated with no parking, no parks, and high crime. We would not want our cherished East Side to become another Crown Heights through a lack of civic leadership. I am a licensed realtor, and I sold 2 separate vacant lots in the East Side, one on Higgins and one on Santa Barbara. Both of the buyers are planning to build single-family homes as retirement for their family. Could we please direct the zoning staff to make it clear for future developers that our community is not zoned for multi-unit properties? I would respectfully request that the zoning regulation for the East Side be carefully adhered to so that our neighborhood maintains its character as a single-family neighborhood. Thank you.
T.H. Brooks.
Hello, my name is Tom Brooks. I live in the neighborhood. I've lived there for 7 years. The speakers so far in favor of this project have spoken eloquently. I agree with them. I support the project. And I will point out that the people that are opposing appear not to live on Marquette Street as the rest of us have and do. I don't know what their motivations are, but I support the project.
Our next four speakers are Tim Broom, Brian Rupp, Joan Bachman, and Alex Maniscalco. All right, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, Council. Thank you very much. My name is Tim Broom. I am a resident of the East Side. I've had the pleasure of living in Oceanside now for 7 years, and I really enjoy calling it home. One of the things that I like most about the city is all the improvements that are taking place. In the 7 years that I've been here, I've seen the city keep going up, and up. Improvements, new buildings, the downtown, there's a lot of really great things happening. I'm going to do something that my friend Diane did. I'm going to go a little bit off script here regarding this. I support Mr. Brandt's project. I've had a chance to look at it. And it seems to me as though he spent a great deal of time trying to plan a building that is going to fit into the neighborhood in an appropriate and responsible fashion. Currently, that area of the East Side, for lack of a better term, needs some improvement. What I have not heard, and what I brought up before planning, was that there's an individual who owns 12 cars in the neighborhood on that street who wants to and feels as though it is his right to park his cars on Mr. Brandt's property during street sweeping days. And why is that individual not here? Because the whole argument against this, to me, once you cut through all the noise, is we've got 1, 2, or 3 people who think it's an issue of parking. But once you clear the one problem, which is the one individual who owns the 12 cars, and cut that out of the equation, then we're just looking at a really great improvement for Marquette Street. I walk through there almost every day. I know people down there. Joanne, Kroon, Diane. The neighborhood's coming up, and I think this would be a wonderful improvement. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Brian Rupp. I'm a resident here at 4917 Amador Drive. I'm here tonight to support the Marquette project. There's been a lot of support for this project. I'm going to try and make my comments brief and not duplicate others. But he's obviously made a lot of concessions and changes in response to the neighbors' concerns. This is a vacant property that's creating some blight. We can change that. We can do something good and have a new project that creates new housing stock in Oceanside, something we need desperately. We're far behind what we need under the regional housing needs assessment. Not only new housing, but attainable housing. This is housing in a coastal community that people can afford and provides an alternative to buying a home. Now you can rent a home. The city's RENA numbers call for 6,200 units to be built between 2010 and 2020. And the numbers I have show us at the halfway mark from 2010 to 2015 at 800 units. We're far behind where we need to be. So we need some more units. This is only 4. It's barely going to make a dent, but we need these 4 units, and the next 4 units, and the next 8 to help bring new housing stock to Oceanside. That's going to help our housing values citywide and bring more economic development to the city. I ask that you support this project and uphold the Planning Commission's decision. Thank you.
Joan Bachman. I live here in the Seaside neighborhood, and unfortunately most of our speakers have actually missed the issue. And I don't know if I can explain it, so they'll accept it, but we have a major issue here. Back in the 80s, late 80s and early 90s, the neighborhoods fought and fought to get RS zoning in Seaside and South O, in East Side. We fought very hard for that. We were up till 2 a.m. We didn't have this nice rule that you sit here from 6 to 8. We were up till 2 a.m. in the old city hall, and they had to move it to the old senior center. And so we fought. We were there. It was painful. But we did it to stop this exact type of development. So why are we settling for what we waited 25 years not to get? This project is as bad as those back in the 80s. I know staff improved it. I'm really sad that what they had to work with was not delightful to begin with, and that staff had to work on the redesign. Many neighborhoods in San Diego have been destroyed by this exact type of development. Kensington, North Park, Hillcrest, Normal Heights, Mission Hill, drive through all of them. This is called a six-pack because it's all garages. All you see are garages. You don't see a neighborhood. You just see some garages. Page 39, I think it is, of our Coast Highway Vision has a picture of an apartment on Nevada Street. It says, "Don't do this." Okay? We have learned that. Whether people appreciate architecture or not, architecture has moved on, and this building is not it. This one is just garage doors. I don't see any street trees. There's not even room for street trees. They're saying there's landscaping. The whole front should be landscaping. It should have been done a different way. An alley down to the back, park in the back. They put all the land in the back. Maybe it should be in the front. This is not the way to meet our housing needs. 4 units, as stated. It's nothing. Okay, this is a way to just chip away at our neighborhoods. Our neighborhoods support many uses. We have halfway houses. We have group homes. We have every type of economic level, from people renting a room to ranches. We actually have a ranch in Seaside. So we are the people who are giving. I think I've personally picked up as much trash as everybody here that mentioned it. We're the people who are here working, living here. Most of the people speaking here are actually making money on this, being employed or making money from a development standpoint. I'm a rental owner. I live near my units. I live very close to my units. I work very hard to save my neighborhood. So you must create a plan to save our neighborhoods. You've had all the time since 1992 or whenever we figured this out to fix this problem, this crazy gerrymandering in Eastside. The map is crazy, and it's not. It shouldn't be there. We should be saving these areas and planning our density rather than like butter across everything, which I call dumb smart growth, to actual smart growth, which is more focused, like the nodes along Coast Highway, what was done down on Mission, these types of development, but not shoehorning it all in. And our design standards, as they accurately said, he meant the design standards. Last point, but our design standards should not drive us down to something that might have looked nice in the 80s, but is a true failure today. Thank you.
Honorable Mayor and council members, my name is Alex Maniscalco. I'm an attorney from the Lofton firm who represent the applicant. First, we'd like to thank staff for their hard work on this project, and we'd like to incorporate our previous comments, our correspondence, and the administrative records in the Planning Commission meeting. First, I'd like to respond and appeal by point. Contrary to the appellant, this application is consistent with LCP and the character of the community. LCPs is approved by the Coastal Commission, contain a land use plan and implementation plan. That land use plan in the LCP includes R3 zoning, the 86 R3 zoning. So, as staff has said, and I think as other applicants have said, LCP by itself, by its own definition, permits this development as designed. And the R3 standard actually allows multifamily. So a lot of these objections about the fact that this is a multifamily application in a community that has a different character, well, that's actually contrary to the actual LCP. The actual LCP allows multifamily. And furthermore, as the staff report says, there are at least 12 properties in a 500-foot radius that are multifamily. That seems like quite a lot in the community, right around there. Staff, Planning Commission, and an expert architect have all deemed it consistent with the neighborhood. With the LCP, there's also an implementation plan. That's the design standards and the actual function that gets adopted and approved by the Coastal Commission. Those rules allow the multifamily property with this kind of lot coverage, with this square footage on this lot. He complies with the implementation standards there as well. So again, the applicant's claim that this does not comply with the LCP is incorrect. It meets the requirements of the implementation plan as adopted with the LCP. Further, it's been fully landscaped as part of the design, and we believe that landscape plan would be considered part of the LCP implementation plan as well. Finally, the appellant has brought up affordable housing. The city's actually, as you're well aware, adopted an in lieu fee pertaining to affordable housing, and under applicable law, the city actually determines that the fees pursuant to the Mitigation Fee Act is reasonably rated to the impact of the proposed development based on a square footage basis. The city's actually made the determination that this fee deals with that impact. And there's a nexus, was a legal term, to the concern, and resolves it, or at least provides a deposit to purchase and to provide a solution for affordable housing. So, in summation, this appeal is really a complaint about the past zoning. It doesn't really relate to this project. The applicant has complied with the rule. His application is complete and has vested. He's under this 86 land use controls in that portion of the land use plan of the local coastal program. We respectfully request that you uphold the unanimous planning commission approval and approve the proposed project, and reject the appeal as lacking substantial evidence, particularly in light of the city's own staff report. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Dan Matlock.
Mayor Wood, council members, good evening. My name is Dan Matlock, and I reside on South Pacific Street. My wife and I and 47 property owners in the coastal zone fully support this applicant and this project. Planning staff and planning commission fully support this project. Current and past applicants, including my wife and myself, have been subjected to what amounts to selective enforcement. Selective enforcement takes on many forms here in Oceanside. Sometimes it comes from planning staff, sometimes it comes from the planning commission, and sometimes it comes from a council member. This applicant did everything proper and legal in pursuing this project. The city puts itself at continued risk by flirting with the commingling of city codes and not providing clarity and transparency to all applicants. One council person and several planning commissioners have publicly stated that they support only the unapproved 1992 code. Please follow the law, rules, codes, and regulations that the city has in place for the 1986 code that is applicable in the coastal zone. If a council person or planning commissioner or members of the tax-paying public don't like the codes in place, then attempt to change them in the public forum. But don't attempt to obstruct and undermine the codes and the process that you as duly elected officials are obligated to uphold. This duly sanctioned hearing has amounted to nothing more than a call for review disguised as an appeal. In February of 2009, the city received a $120,000 report from the Matrix Consulting Group that stated, and I quote, "Participants from the development committee considered the review process in Oceanside below average and more difficult than most cities." And just last month, the publisher of the Oceanside magazine stated, "The city has often, in the past, been looked down by the rest of Southern California. So if the city is to remove itself from any negative stigma, then the city needs to break away from all the tactics that it has traditionally engaged in to the detriment of the tax-paying residents." In closing, it is best summed up in a memo dated May 11th, 2009 from the city manager to the city council, and I quote, "The city is legally compelled to use the 1986 zoning ordinance as a standard of review within the coastal zone." Thank you.
This is a public hearing item. Any members of the public who have not turned in forms but who have not already spoken and wish to speak may come forward to the council at this time. Mayor Wood, at this time I see none. Now we can go to the appellant. You have 14 minutes remaining. Mr. Hernandez, yeah, I see 14 minutes.
Council members, if you're interested in this family hotel located in the library, And, let me, more to say.
Can you use the mic? George?
Oh, I'm sorry. Also, if you go back to warn you about a few things, more or less say about the infrastructure in the east side, as this book here reflects on the 4762, when the main sewer was tied in from the east side to Mission, or attempted to. Okay, this is a clay pipe. Supposedly, on the Coastal Commission meeting, the owner more or less came up and said that he's designated more or less to use power driving for this complex. So power driving is more or less his adjacent neighbors are going to find out that it's really not suitable for residential areas to be used in. Therefore, the clay pipe that's in there, if you have it cameraed before construction starts, if you grant it, you can see the cracks that are in there, and this has not been replaced since then. The only thing that's been replaced, infrastructure, is water line. Okay, so once you camera it, you re-camera it after he develops it, and if he's like that, you can more or less find out that he's liable, so he will have to pay to complete, construction on that replacement. So this is my suggestion more or less to you. Another topic more or less that these people fail to shed light on is more or less the policing of the area. Okay, these complexes, to any community, okay, there's the bad element that moves in, and all of you know it, so you can't deny it. Okay, for instance, more or less the shooting that happened in Baltimore Park, the last one, there's been numerous shootings in there. So, if you choose to, on those grounds, more or less say that nothing has been. The only time you see OPD, we also short of policing by OPD in this area is cut down drastically. I had 2 retired officers that were coming in and more or less talk on this subject, but I told them to stay home because it's not really worth it, because until this council decides more or less to address it, to engineering, to straighten out the problem from day one, it's been wrongly due to this community. Therefore, if you choose to, I also have 60 emails right here, 300 more or less residential signatures. So this is being saved till such time that you direct engineering to correct this wrong, basically, that Mike Blessing took it under, more or less and all of you know, some of you have the email from Mike Blessing, and if not, request it from talking amongst yourselves, and request it, and you will find out. Because we got all the information, Terry Johnson went, we got all the information. That's what this is more or less broke down from a 30-page, more or less then this is what we pulled out of it. Engineering knows about it. So therefore, if you have any questions on this, I'm glad to answer any that you have. There's a whole lot more, even with policing, but yet I'm only touching on it. And I'm sure you're bored with all this, more or less people that are for it and what have you and all that. And it's more or less time for you people to rule and do the right thing and fight on the side of the community that is residential. If you choose to let this project continue, please consider more or less the conditional use permits that I'm asking for. And this is nothing more to protect the surrounding residents, more or less some kind of relief, more or less that the city council more or less is paying attention, is listening to their needs and wants. Thank you.
At this time, council can begin their discussion.
Thank you very much for everybody's comments. I do appreciate it. It was long, but I say it's important. Come back to the council. I'll close the public hearing, come back to the council. Mr. Kern, you're up first.
Thank you. It seems like there's widespread community support for this project. There is a couple issues. The one I want to point out is condition number 80 in this, and that's that the garages shall be kept available for use for parking tenant automobiles at all times. I know in all the new condo projects we've been approving that these garages have to stay clear. You cannot use them for storage, and you have to use them for parking the automobiles in. So I think there was an issue about parking. Tim kind of brought up something I didn't know about the 12-car owner, but the idea that it seems like everything will be parked on site, and so that's been addressed. I'm still trying to figure out why this was appealed. I mean, this shouldn't have been. I mean, the idea that, widespread community support, improvement to the neighborhood, actually blocks off that canyon, and actually is an overall improvement to the safety of the neighborhood. So this idea that, well, what happened in 86 or 92 is not relevant at all. We operate under a set of rules here, and right now the rules are the 86 code. And so when he came in, and Mr. Brandt came in to planning staff and asked, what can I build here? And they said, this is the rules, and he followed all the rules. Now, if we want to change the rules going forward, fine. Actually, we're going through a general plan update now. And the idea, I'm not going to come back and support any change in zoning in this neighborhood on a one-off basis. The idea that we're going to do one piece at a time or one area at a time, because that's what gets us in this mess, is the idea that we try to do one-off zoning. So we're going through a general plan update. We'll see what staff comes up with for these areas here, and then we'll adopt a general plan update. Up until that point, I'm not going to support any zoning changes in any place, because we're spending a lot of time, money, and effort to do a general plan update. So, Mr. Brandt, I congratulate you, and actually I thank you for investing in Oceanside. And hopefully, by you, we get through this, and it encourages other people to invest in Oceanside, not just Eastside, but all of Oceanside. So we do need to streamline this process and get people through this process as quickly as possible, because if you follow all the rules, then you should be able to build the project on the land that you own. So I think that's something that we need to do. I actually thank you for working with staff, and I thank staff for giving input back to make this a better project than when it brought in. So the idea, I think everybody wins on this project when it gets approved. So I'm going to make a motion to deny the appeal and uphold the resolution of the Planning Commission approving a 4-unit, 3-story townhouse apartment building, the Marquette fourplex on Marquette Street. Thank you.
Do we have a second? We have a second.
I'll
Thank you very much. Ms. Sanchez, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Ms. Russell, for the handouts about the East Side neighborhood. The East Side neighborhood, except for a few years in 1986, has been a single-family residential community for over 100 years. Over 100 years. My dad came to the East Side neighborhood in the 30s, and with his family. He was 7 years old, and I got to hear a lot of stories. I grew up in East Side as well, and I still live there. I got to hear a lot of stories about the families that started the East Side. It's been documented by the Historical Society via Christy Hawthorne. In fact, Christy has written a lot about the families that came out of East Side and have contributed very much to the city of Oceanside. So for that brief period of time in the 80s, and I tell you, I was growing up here, so I remember when this was. There weren't the high density in Crown Heights and the high density on Marquette, mostly on Marquette. I don't know why they picked Marquette, but most of that high density is on Marquette. I think that Ms. Bachman talked about what happened as a reaction to those projects, because I'll tell you that no council members thought that they were going to create a Crown Heights when they decided to get rid of the single-family homes where you used to be able to get the best trick-or-treat, candy in Oceanside, right there, right behind the high school, to these high-density buildings, market rate. We're not talking affordability here. and what has become the city's greatest crime areas, unfortunately. And it's not because they were built to become that. This council, that council did not say, okay, let's not build a substandard project. That council, as well as this council, wants to approve high quality projects. And it is that experience that has made us in 1986, after 1986, to change that and to promise this community, after a lot of movements, and Joan, thank you very much for talking about, staying up till 2 o'clock to listen to the community, change it back to single family. So for over 100 years, except for that brief period of time, it has been, up until now, up until this project, has been single family residential, the East Side. And let me tell you that it is still so challenged. The conditions that were enunciated for the appeal, basically that this area is not underserved in employment, community facilities, and public services. It is the highest demand for services. Marquette Street happens to be, in the East Side, happens to be the area where there are the most drug sales, the most stabbings, the most homicides, and the most problems with cars. And I doubt that it's one person having 12 cars, because even on my part of the street, on Pool Street, a single-family home, homes, there are numerous cars, regardless of whether you can walk to the school or not. So there is huge concern. There are over, as George indicated, and I grew up with George, and a lot of folks in Eastside who fought to do something better for the kids. They have been fighting. We have been fighting to make that community better. And it is a daily job. How George found out, because I did not get this notice, George let me know what was happening with this project. And I couldn't even believe that this was in the coastal zone. Nobody knew that the East Side, any part of the East Side, was in the coastal zone, and that therefore, the 86, 92 was, a real problem. Because anywhere outside of the coastal zone, you don't need to have processed the local coastal plan amendment. So that's what the real problem was, and continues to be. And I do hope that we can change this through the council. I don't know if, and I'm assuming that there are enough votes here to approve the project, but let me tell you about this project. I know that there are no intentions, and I'm not suggesting that there are, by the owner to create a bad project. But let me tell you, he wanted to do 6 units on 2 small lots. These small lots from way back in the day. Times 3, 18 bedrooms. Okay, 18 bedrooms. It's down to 12 bedrooms. Do you know what that does to the East Side? Many times, families live in each bedroom. In Crown Heights, you have unrelated adults sleeping in the same room with children. You have, and again, this neighborhood, this street especially, there's a lot of drug sales that happens on this street. And this is where a lot of kids are. Even though we continue to work and work as a city, we have had demands for more services. We had the grandfather of Annabelle come in and say, enough is enough. When is the city going to invest in Eastside? Those CDBG funds that we talked about for this new project that's happening, $900,000, could have gone into Eastside to make things better, but they didn't. And CDBG funds are based on census tracts, especially the East Side. And those funds go elsewhere. We still have problems. We're still having problems because of Annabelle's death. There are not as many kids going to the park, which means they are on the streets. And when they're in the streets, on the streets, there's more criminal activity. One of the biggest problems that we have right now is kids staying and coming into backyards of our neighborhoods, of our houses, and stealing. This is going to happen regardless if it's a vacant lot or a home there. We're talking, again, about 12 bedrooms, and even though we say that we're not going to allow conversion of the garages, that's another 4 rooms, right? 4 livable spaces, potentially. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. I understand how frustrated code enforcement is because they'll go in and they will, change it, and then they go back, and then they're gone, and it changes back. We have RVs that are hooked up as living spaces. We have a ton of garages that are living spaces in Eastside. We have tons of cars. Again, it doesn't matter if you're within walking distances. And the way that we are going to improve the East Side, the way that it's going to become an economic plus, is through this kind of design. We need to go back to the 92. We need to go and turn this and return to what it really is, and it is a single-family community. I appreciate all the folks from outside of Eastside and even the rest of the city who have a very strong opinion about, this project. Again, I assume it's going to get passed. But this project, unfortunately, is going to add to the problems in Eastside. And I can tell you that because it is. It is. It is the high-density projects that keep the festering of the crime here. And right now I want to apologize to the families that have lost people in Eastside. Annabelle, 15 years old. 15 years old. And we have still not responded well. So in the coming weeks, we are going to have community members come and speak to this, the notion that we need to go back because this is so important to stopping, to finally putting a stop to the crime, to allowing kids to have half a chance. I invite you to come to a Thanksgiving celebration that we have every year in Eastside for the kids. And listen to the kids and say what they're thankful for. And you will hear them say, I'm thankful that I'm alive. This is what it is. It's black and white for us in Eastside. Black and white. And what we're asking for and what the community is asking for, 300 plus, is that you leave us alone. Give us our single-family residential zoning. And don't toy with the zoning after that. Again, except for those few, 2, 3 years, 4 years, it's always been single-family. Always, always. 1992 code, if the East Side was not in zoning, in the coastal zone, which it ought not to be, we wouldn't even be here today. Because the 1992 would apply to the East Side. just a little thing on a map. Coastal. Other places in Oceanside, it's only 300 feet. You know, so I am not going to be able to vote to support this project. I do believe that, unfortunately, a few years from now, we're going to see that this was a bad project. And I hope that we can continue to go back and make it right for the community. Yes, it was Mr. Blessing, and he said, we believed that when we did the 1992, we could have this apply. And we didn't have to just have, we could have higher standards. We could have higher standards. This is, for many people in the East Side, and several thousand people live in the East Side, several thousand. This is life and death, especially for the kids. And I wish I could convey to you why this little project, four-unit project, is so dangerous. It's so dangerous to this community. I wish I could, but obviously, in looking in your faces, you're not understanding this community. In other communities, we talk about character, and yes, that would be legally defensible to say this is not consistent with the character, and it's not. It really, truly is not. I don't believe it complies completely with the requirements. I do feel that this has been an over-concentration. You're creating a poverty situation here, more and more. I'm sure you wouldn't want to have condo conversions in a mobile home park right next to you. I'm sure you wouldn't want to have, take away your, increase the fees for slips. There are all kinds of things we don't want because we want to maintain the character of our community, the character of where we live and where we work. So hopefully you'll understand because, again, this is life and death. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for the city attorney, and that is, as it appears that the applicant has met all of our legal requirements, if we arbitrarily decide to ignore those facts, is the applicant entitled to sue the city because we said no, and the person went through all of those processes already? That's a question for the city attorney.
Well, once your decision's final, the applicant or an opponent could sue. All it takes is filing a paper, but your decision has to be based on the findings. So you have a development plan that is required for this project, and it requires the findings that are set forth on page 4 and 5 of the resolution. And so the question is, do you believe that there's substantial evidence to support those findings? If so, then it's a legally defensible approval. So that's ultimately you as the decision makers have to weigh the evidence. And yes, of course, an applicant can sue upon a denial, but ultimately would be based upon an administrative record, looking at all of the evidence. And a question before the judge would be whether there's substantial evidence to support your decision. Staff believes there's substantial evidence to support the decision.
Okay, thank you. So I have a technical question then for Russ. Is there a reason, does the property owner benefit by leaving the property vacant? For any reason?
Deputy Mayor, I can't think of any advantage to leaving the property vacant.
The pictures that you brought up, that one that showed a number of cars parked on the property on street sweeping day. Does the property owner benefit from having those cars parked on the property?
I don't believe he's receiving any compensation for those cars being parked on his private property.
So it is then, if the project is built, then I imagine that there wouldn't be any space to park those cars on the property, or is the applicant going to build a parking lot for the neighbors who want to park there?
No, sir.
No. Okay. I just thought I'd check because it seems like we have some concerns about parking and what's going on on that property in particular with the potential illegal activity, but the obvious throwing away of crap you find from your, I guess, backyard down the hillside there. So I would imagine that if we don't develop a parking lot there, but if we do build housing or the building, that there would be no place for people to hang out or park their cars or, I don't know, blow off fireworks. I'm a little confused about why we would want to leave it vacant other than sentimental reasons. Any suggestions? Or I appreciate the pictures you brought in. It really did show that there were many multifamily units surrounding that property. I don't know what it's like outside that 500-foot radius that you used, but I imagine that that's kind of a nice snapshot of what we have there. So I think that the best thing to do is to support the decision of the Planning Commission. Thank you.
The only way I think that neighborhood is actually going to be what Councilmember Sanchez is referring to is if in fact the homeowners start making their properties better. Gentrification occurs in these neighborhoods. People like the Magana's, Mr. Hernandez, his property is a nice property. And until that happens throughout the neighborhood, there's probably 90% of all those homes there are single family. And they're probably just as dense in their single families as Crown Heights is in their multifamily units. And I just believe that people live in that situation because that's what they can afford. And unfortunately, we have a huge parking problem there because I would guess that most of the single families don't use their garages. They are probably, they might have, as Councilmember Sanchez said, several people living in each garage. And there's probably a lot of not permitted units in the back of the single families that, if code started going through, that's not something I want to get into, but just to have a natural gentrification of the homes is what I think is probably most suited for the neighborhood. As far as this project, I think it's terrific that Mr. Brandt wants to fix an empty lot that's, it's his lot, and he's followed all the rules. The future issues are probably zoning to maybe change that to the 92 rules in that general area, but that's not here now. So unfortunately, it wasn't followed through in 92. So I just, or maybe it was even a little earlier than that, but anyway, when it wasn't followed through with, we as a city have allowed this to happen, and I don't think we can unring this bell. This is a quality project. He's committed, like many of the other places that we've permitted all throughout the city for residential, and we're asking them to not use their garages for living space, for storages, for parking. You know, in my neighborhood, I'm sure glad I got a two-car driveway because we do not park in our garage. And someday maybe we will. If we could have a garage sale or the house would burn down or something like that. But we don't have the parking, and I understand what people mean by using their garages that way, but it's really difficult in a dense neighborhood of single families where it's so populated. It's not just the few hundred homes that are there, but it's every home is really packed full. So this is a good project. I appreciate Jason persisting. We can't say no. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I tell you what, I'm sorry it took so long, but later on in the evening, we'll address how long we can talk. That's one of my main concerns. The other thing is, Jason, I'm sorry you had so much trouble over this issue totally with the city and the issues. You have a good project, in my opinion. That's going to address the east side. Something new would be nice over there. As for apartments, as single family, a lot of things are going to change because of the building codes or whatever. I know that. I'm sorry you had so much problems. On the other hand, you're local. You're a local gentleman who are a contractor, and you should be the one that gets help from us the most, somebody from the east side. It's going to be what it's going to be, I think, for a long time. I look in the audience, most of these people are east side or have been representative of the east sides. I got feedback from them too. I'm surprised this issue is here tonight too. But that's a decision that somebody made on this particular issue. We have to address it. But anyhow, for this sake, I'll address the other thing on item 24 tonight, and we have one more speaker, Ms. Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to quickly address, respond to Councilmember Lowry's questions, because I think that might have been a little bit confusing. With respect to the cars will be parked elsewhere on the streets. So it's actually going to exacerbate the situation. Not that it's the property owner's duty to have a parking lot, but you asked what's going to happen with the cars. They're not going to disappear. They're going to be parked elsewhere in other streets. With respect to the building and the vacancy, that's not the issue before us. These are two small single-family lots. He could build two single-family homes. So it's not a question of does he have a right to build or not? No, he does have a right. There is no taking here. And as to whether or not we could deny the project, yes, we can legally. Yes, we can. The criteria that was before us basically was subjective and objective criteria. And if we were to decide and find that this was not consistent with the surrounding community, yes, it would be defensible and we would win. So there were several grounds upon which this was appealed to us. And yes, we would win if we wanted to deny the project. Thank you.
Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's vote. Yes.
Motion approved, 4-1, Sanchez, no.
Thank you very much for this. Thank you very much. We have other things in the council meeting. We're going to go backwards a little bit and go public comment. How many?
We have two speakers on public
Let's
comment.
go with them.
At this time, Delfina Gonzalez and Margaret Malik. This is a public talk agenda. Delfina Gonzalez and Margaret Malik. They're I can put it. Oh, okay. Okay, open forum? All right, you'll speak clear to them.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're still continuing. Hey, move outside and talk. I thank you very much.
Well, good evening, council members, and good evening, Mayor. Thank you. On a lighter note, here we go. So we are here. My name is Margaret Malik. I'm from Oceanside Unified School District. I'm a project specialist for Community College and Career Development. I'm here today to talk about Youth Success Week that's happening January 30th through February 4th, 2017. We actually did Youth Success Week last year, and I know some of our council members came out. Thank you so much for your presence and your participation. A committee of people came together this year and coordinated a wonderful Youth Success Week. Some of the people on the committee included teachers from our school district, assistant principals, members from the city. Maria Yanez is on our committee. We have the Oceanside Public Library there, and we also have Maricosta College. So this is a real community effort to support youth success in Oceanside. How do I advance it? Here? Okay. One of the things that we're working on with the Oceanside Promise is developing social emotional learning with our students. There are many benefits when we invest in the character development and the social emotional learning of our students and families. The purpose of Youth Success Week is giving youth a voice for change. And the theme is Mission I'm Possible, because if you think about it, how are we going to give 18,000 students a voice for change, right? So we thought, well, if we have a theme, which is Mission I'm Possible, and the teachers start having conversations with students about their gifts they have to give to the world to make it a better place, and maybe our students can start developing a mission and vision for their life based on character qualities that we're teaching with our 8 Keys of Excellence program. So teachers have been invited to ask their students, what's your mission I'm possible? And they're encouraged to have students share their mission I'm possible through poetry, art, through vision board, and a class video montage of teachers interviewing their students saying, what's your mission I'm possible? We're working with the library. They developed a schedule for our schools. So whatever our students develop during Youth Success Week around Mission I'm Possible, the Oceanside Public Libraries will be displaying our students' artwork. We have sent home flyers to all of our families with all of the events that are happening. As you can see, there's quite a bit going on during the week. We have events for high school. We have family empowerment nights. 4 nights this week. Oh dear, that's quick. So we're having 4 family empowerment nights at our middle schools so that we can hit all quadrants of the city and reach more families to empower them with valuable information in our Love and Logic program, which our psychologists teach for 6 weeks. The city got involved and we're having city art projects at Maricosta Learning Center, Maricosta Community Center, at the Mission Branch Library, and at the Civic Center Library. The project is this: Handprints of Our Future. How will you make a difference in Oceanside? And our families are invited to go ahead and go to those 3 places, trace their handprint, write down their mission I'm possible to share. and it will be displayed at our Youth Success Week Festival. Here's some things that are going on in the classroom: inspirational quotes each day, interpersonal activities for our students to start building that social emotional awareness, relationship skills, communication skills. Leadership Success Day. We would love to invite you to come and attend our Leadership Success Day business training. We have Stedman Graham doing identity development, Steve Farber working on extreme leadership, and Marcy Morrison, who is going to be discussing passion plus purpose equals world change. The exciting thing about this event is that we will be having 400 avid students present at the two trainings. We have one for the Oceanside High School, Ocean Shores High School, and Claire Bergner Alternative School. And that's on Wednesday, February 1st, and on Thursday, February 2nd, we have one at El Camino High School. So we would love for you to come, and the students will be there for the full 3-hour business training as well, and we're hoping to create some networking between our business members and community members with our avid students. So we invite you to come. You can sign up on Eventbrite. And Thursday, February 2nd, we have Julian Guthrie, Eric Lindbergh, the grandson of Charles Lindbergh, and Mike Melville, the world's first commercial space pilot and astronaut. I don't know if you've heard about Spaceship One. It's the first commercial spaceship for citizens to go up into space. And this is that team that worked on that spaceship, and they're having a conversation and a panel to discuss how to make a spaceship and Mission Impossible with our students and parents and community members. We also invite you to stay for that. So hopefully you can come on Thursday to the Leadership Success Day and then stay for this special panel of experts. And then we're having a variety show on Friday 21st to honor all of the incredible talent of our individual students from all 23 schools. And we're having the Youth Success Week Festival on Friday. I believe you have that flyer in your packet. So it's this one where we have our student group performances. So Ballet Folklorica will be there, and Polynesian Outreach Program will be there. And we would love to have you attend whatever you can come in and join us for.
I went to the, at the Quantum Livingston, I had Stedman Graham there. It was nice. But the talent show was later on. Sounds interesting. Thank you. I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you
I
so
want to
much.
apologize you had to wait so long.
Thank you. That is okay. You have a lot of business to take care of. And I just really appreciate everything you do for our community, and I'm honored to be part of Oceanside Unified School District and live in this community.
We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Delphine, you didn't want to say anything else? Okay.
Great, thank you. Jim Jenkins.
Honorable Mayor, City Council members, Jim Jenkins, 1429 Calle Marbella, Oceanside. Just a quick update on some of the stuff with Helgrins. I know that's still an ongoing saga, an ongoing issue. And I know as of recent, the Joe Cassiola's boat, Sea Star, under a court order as of December 30th, 2016, was basically asked or ordered to be removed off of the docks of Helgrins, which under the exclusivity also, I believe, is supposed to be not to commercially or be a vessel for hire. The reason why I'm here today is I received almost 20 texts, emails, and phone calls and pictures showing that he's come in again today, still chartering trips, undocumented trips, people for hire, in other words, a vessel for hire, and they're loading over at the Dolphin Dock. So we're curious, who's tracking this revenue? This is one of the ongoing lawsuits that Helgrins had, was undocumented chartered vessels, rod and reel rentals, and there's revenue and taxes not being provided to the city. So once again today, it was out on a charter, people all lined up out in the parking lot to board that vessel. It happened also the first week of January as well, and pictures and stuff were all sent over to Paul Lawrence at the harbor office too. So it's continuously going on. Also was contacted by a couple of law enforcement officers, stated they'd be willing to sign an affidavit because he was going to charter their vessels with them as well here in the year 2017. So the question is, under what business license, what exclusivity are they, being controlled? So this is still going on. Also, I noticed in an article that came out in the Blade as of yesterday, had an article about something fishy in our harbor, but also had a section in here about Pardon Me. And this is all about some of the background of the individuals that were applying for the Southern city license in order to have a lease down the harbor. And it talks about Mr. Flegler and his past history, and that's why it says Pardon Me, about past history of felony accounts, possession with intent to distribute, things like that. And a lot of people are asking, before this application process took place for the RFP, do they even look into the background of these individuals to find out who it is that they're trying to bring into the harbor, versus so much effort of trying to remove somebody who's been established and creating good revenue for the harbor? So once again, I'm just bringing information because of the text and emails I got today, and also the pictures, and I asked them to be forwarded over to Paul Lawrence so he sees that activity as well. But someone needs to find out, where's the revenue going, where's the tax dollars?
You have a copy of your paper to our city clerk?
Yes, sir. Be more than happy to. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. No further public on this item?
Thank you, Rich. Item 24.
Yes. Item number 24 is request by Mayor Wood to direct the city attorney to prepare amendments to Chapter 2 of the Oceanside City Code to limit remarks by individual council members to no more than 10 minutes per item of business, and direct the city manager to discontinue city council reports on future agendas.
Thank you. I'll make a motion that we do that if there's a second time. I just got a lot of calls and personal contacts about how long some of the council meetings go and who speaks forever. It's my complaints. I'm getting them. And we previously had a motion on the floor from a Prudence Council setting 5 minutes for the time. I think that's way too short. 10 minutes, you should be able to talk about any item you want, especially if you contact the city attorney, city manager, and staff before the meeting. You should be able to get in 10 minutes. These both items are time consumers along with other things, but I have most complaints for somebody on the council. They only get 2 minutes or 3 minutes. We talk forever up here. I agree, so I'm asking for that one. If anybody wants to second the motion?
I'll second.
Thank you very much.
There is a public on this item.
Yep.
So we have 3 members of the public. First, Jimmy Knott. Second, Pamela Myers. And last, Joan Bachman.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sugar Lane. As you know, I have attended city council meetings now for over a quarter century. And I do know what you mean by saying about extensive comments. But I do know that some issues require extensive comments for background information and other extemporaneous issues that the public needs to know. And sometimes guest speakers are brought in that takes the council members' time. So unless you take and provide that time, that will be eliminated. Another issue is I cannot see implementing this unless you have, like other cities, workshop settings prior to the city council meeting. And I draw your attention to Solana Beach, which commonly has time for workshop settings for all their city council items for consideration, where they discuss the issue and all the issues onto the city council agenda. And then when they come in for a meeting, they are limited by time. And then the public takes and brings forward issues, and that unless there is new issues brought forward, they vote right afterwards. Another point is that the establishment of the city council reports, one of the key purposes in the past that it was done for, was to share information from the liaisons with all the different committees that you are obliged to attend, so the public hears it and your colleagues hear it because you're bound by the Brown Act. And then finally, one issue that may be, now I know this is a hot issue, but it is scientific. Women talk more and need to talk more than men. This is scientific. I'm not taking, if you want to take and check with this, look in National Geographic. And it's necessary for a woman to speak more than a man. And if you disagree with that, I let you take and talk to anthropologists.
Especially if I'm probably the most educated person on the council, right?
So I will bring that issue forward as well, so this could be considered a sexist item. Thank you.
Don't talk too long, Sal.
Oh, geez. I agree with Jimmy and I agree with Esther there. Pamela Myers, longtime resident here in Oceanside. Good evening. Yes, council meetings can go fairly long, but these items are very important, and I believe that there shouldn't be a limit on a time limit where council members speak. I don't know about you guys, but if I was in your position and I had a limit on speaking, I'd be like worried about the time all the time, and it would stifle my thinking process and information process getting out, because I'd be worried about, like now, 2 minutes, time. So I think it's a very bad idea to put a time limit on your meetings and discussions. I think it's, I think this is why you guys ran for office, is to be transparent, to be open, and be able to express yourself on the items that are very important to us and everyone else. I believe that it's a bad idea. I don't believe that, I hope that it's not approved. I think if everyone makes a conscious effort to really, get their point across as expedient as possible, and do their homework ahead of time, maybe have these meetings and workshops ahead of time so that you're not here all night. I think that what Jimmy said was a great idea. And then also regarding discontinued city council reports on future agendas, that's also in this. I think that's a bad idea, because we all want to know what you guys do and who you meet with. We want you to be transparent, and I always thought government had to be transparent to us, the citizens and taxpayers. So, I know it's painful to be here a long night for all of us, and I don't get paid for this, but I think that, there should not be a time limit on speaking. Thank you. Joan Bachman, Seaside Neighborhood. I'll do my part to be right here and not spend that time. I didn't want to be here tonight. Most of us who come here are here because of an issue, and we like you all, but we'd rather see you differently. I didn't like this the first time I saw it. There was an alert other people sent out, but I was looking at it because of the Marquette issue. I saw this on the agenda, and I didn't like it. I think there are different perspectives, and I think it takes time sometimes to hear those. There are a lot of people here who don't share my perspectives, and like Pamela said, we're very limited in time. But I think the public voted for Esther well above all the other candidates, well above the other candidates, and the public wants her there, and they want her oh, well, that was the mayor race. I'm talking about the council. There were two different ballots there. And I think that's important, and we should respect that. I think your world doesn't include some things my world includes. We just had a whole big discussion. Nobody mentioned the canyoneers and going down in the canyons. I was in the canyons with the canyoneers. That's not anybody's world that was here. So I learn a lot from Esther specifically when I come to these meetings. And new ideas are brought forward, and sometimes it takes a video or whatever. But I think you need to give it the time. I think you need to not fit everybody in your box. And as a woman who got an engineering degree, worked in high tech for a very long time, I know what that feels like. It's very subtle. It happens over long periods, and it wears you down. And thank God you can put up with it. And I don't expect you to see that. So I think you need to give the time. And as far as the reports, yeah, I'd like to know that Sandag does nothing that affects us. I'd like to know, what about Oceanside? Because I'm not going to get that from the UT, and I'm not going to read the plate. So I think I'd like to have more information come back from those meetings. Not about, I went and I did this and that. It's not about that. Sandag talked about this. We might want to, heads up. That's what I'd like to hear. So I think this is very wrong-headed. Sorry. Thank you.
No further public on this item.
Well, thank you for your input. You picked out one person to talk about, so I understand. I got the same feedback, but the policy before was 5 minutes. I've doubled that, and certainly doesn't mean on something that's very important to the city or the council we won't address that. But I'm thinking of people telling me you only get 2 minutes, 1 minute, or 3 minutes to talk from the public, and some people up here talk for 25 or 40 minutes. That's not acceptable. Thank you very much, and I'll have a vote on that. Anybody has any comments? Okay, Mr. Kern, please.
Thank you. Just to address a couple things. I cannot remember the last time we had a city council report on their committees. And I'm just as guilty as everybody up here. The idea that we really don't. We use that time to talk about what barbecues or what events we have attended, and just, children's birthdays or grandchildren's birthdays or uncles and aunts' birthdays and weddings and all these other things that we talk, I don't know why we do that, but people up here seem to use that time to do that. I would like to get rid of these council reports and actually do what Sandag does, and we have items not on the agenda, and at Sandag, at the beginning of every meeting, we have public items not on the agenda. Then they let all the members have 3 minutes for items not on the agenda to speak. And it's 3 minutes, and they hold it to that. So we can be transparent, we can be open, but we can be brief. I think we're fairly intelligent people that we can actually articulate what position we want up here in a shorter period of time. And part of that goes back to what Pamela said, the idea that you have to be prepared when you come. Some people do it on the fly up here. The idea they're in the middle of their conversation and they start drifting away and talking about something else and try to come back. So to stay on topic, and that's the one thing we have to do. I like the city of San Diego. City of San Diego is 5 minutes, and at the discretion of the chair, you can have an extra 3 minutes to finish. Now, I think that 10 minutes covers that, and I'm sure at the discretion of the chair, that time can be extended if it's pertinent to the conversation. So it's not like we're trying to keep anybody quiet, because God knows we'll never be able to do that, but we will be able to make it focused and brief, transparent, and open. And the idea that we be able to get the point across. So the idea that we need to tighten this up a little bit. It does get rambling at times, and I'm starting to do that right now, so I'm going to stop.
Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do believe this is a violation of our commitment to the community, to Oceanside, for transparency. The public ought to be told why we base our decisions, why we say yes, why we say no. I feel like this is not a good idea. I don't think, when I heard about this, I inquired to staff, and I heard that it was because, Mr. Mayor, you wanted to get home sooner. I remember when I first got on the council, and I hardly ever spoke, I think, that was about the time, we would get, 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, when we first started, when I was learning. And it came down to 10. Now it's 9 or 8:30 that we're done. So our meetings are actually quite a lot shorter than they were when I first got on the council. I do try not to ask too many questions of other items that that are not as of high priority to me, like this evening. But if you're going to say 10 minutes, I don't think it's going to make the council meeting shorter. So, and as to council reports, I don't think I get into talking about my family as much. Although I think that what we do, we talk about what we do in the community and what things are coming up. People want to hear that. So I am going to vote no on this, and I'm probably going to have to do a standing request on all future agendas that for council report, for my council report, which I can do, right? And
go for 5 minutes instead of 10 minutes. Next time I'll bring that back.
I'm sorry, what?
We can go for 5 minutes instead of 10 minutes next time.
Mr. Mayor, if what you want to do is get home earlier, I'm telling you, it's not going to happen.
I don't want to have here all night listening to you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm rude.
I think Mr. Feller's light is on.
Mr. Feller? Go ahead. Yeah.
I hadn't really thought about that idea of San Diego because I was prepared to, not. I think we need opportunity to talk about. For me, it's only one committee, so I don't have a long report, but it's Parks and Rec, and I do a lot of reporting on what's going on there, so I have spoken about that. But 10 minutes is probably a lot longer than I would ever speak, for the most part. Sometimes it takes me that long to say a couple of words because I'm not quite as well educated as Councilmember Sanchez. But the other thing that we could do is shorten up, the programs up that we bring in for the groups as well. But I do like the idea that we're talking about something like an allotted 3-minute time to talk about whatever we might want to talk about. And, I don't want to be non-transparent. I schedule a time to go over the agenda every week, and after I've read it, so that I can get questions asked and answered by the city manager's staff ahead of the issue, and then I don't have to take up time in the council meeting, and they're very willing. So I'd like to see the presentations shortened up. I'd also like to see the 10 minutes. Whether that's what I don't remember ever having a 5-minute presentation since I've been on the council, but maybe it was that way at one time. Anyway, I was thinking I was going to just abstain from this, but if we can come to some agreement on a short time to be able to present, the 10 minutes shouldn't bother any of us as far as the amount of time it takes to say something. So I think but I think that's probably appropriate, so, that's all I have.
I'll answer this. Ladies and
That,
gentlemen,
is that, I think that was like 3.5 minutes, so.
I'll add to this. If you have some other recommendation from Sandag, San Diego, whatever, I'll be happy to listen to it. Each one of you have complained to me about how long this has gone on, so I understand that. I got the complaint from the audience too. That's it. I've asked several times of people on the dais, they could make it quick. I'm running out of time. We're going to quit at 10. They never do. So I have to address it because the council members don't address it. And I've been asked to do that. If there's a better forum in there, it was 5 minutes, and I think 10 minutes to cover it. You said it. I sit with the city manager and the staff before the meetings and ask what's coming up and what to have on it, any information they might have with it. That helps me be prepared for this. But I haven't got much cooperation on these things, so I have this item brought up. I'll let the rest of the council decide if that is something they want to do or something else. That's all I have. Chuck, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Wood. I'm concerned about an item around transparency, and I got a couple emails about that apparently one person sent to other people, and so people started talking about transparency. So I looked at what the items are that we're talking about. There are 2 items on this agenda item. One item is to limit rambling council member statements to 10 minutes of rambling. And I think that what Councilmember Feller mentioned is that if we prepare ahead and come up with what it is that we want to say, 10 minutes is more than enough to discuss any kind of item. But if we need more, we can ask for more. If, as far as the council reports not being transparent, that is completely a ridiculous comment to say. Council reports are not on the agenda. Council reports are random statements that council members make, whether they talk about Sandag or they talk about their kids, grandkids, great-grandkids' birthdays. Whatever they talk about cannot be on the agenda, so there is no transparency requirement. Nothing is going to be lost around stopping council comments. They're not on the agenda, therefore there is no transparency. It's just stuff that we talk about. So I think that the concern about transparency is in itself a very weak argument, but the First Amendment rules here, and that we want to be in observance of the First Amendment. So if we have any issues of importance, we will bring them up. We will find time to bring them up. If the community has issues of concern, they can bring it up to us. They have the 1, 2, or 3 minutes, as the mayor mentioned, depending upon how many people are here, to speak about a certain item. So I think that this, as far as being transparent, is not going to impact being transparent one way or the other. We can say what we need to say about anything in less than 10 minutes if we have thought about what it is we want to say, and if we actually have content and we're not just going off of, memories we had when we were growing up. So I'm going to support this item, but if it doesn't work out, I'm going to make a motion, put up an item on the agenda in the future that we take it away. So I think we should just go ahead and try it. If it doesn't work, awesome. But the idea of lacking transparency or people having the ability to say whatever they need to say, that is not what's going to happen here. We will say what we need to say, and the community will know what it is that's going on. So, thank you.
Anybody else? I see none. Vote.
Motion approved, 4-1. Sanchez, no.
Thank you. City Council reports, I have no comments. If anybody else does.
Deputy Mayor Lowry.
I went to the reason the mayor doesn't have anything to say this week is because he didn't go to the Martin Luther King event.
I didn't want to get everybody sick.
Yes, so I went. It was a great event. That was a really good, reflective way to acknowledge the work that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King did here in the United States. His memory and the results of what he did are still very active today and very important to our nation. In addition to that, is by a local author. I'm waiting for the camera to look at the book, not the clerk. Wow.
The audience.
Show us the room. Put it on the table. So anyway, the book is, the title of the book is on the book. Tracker 40 Years of Skateboard History. This took place in Oceanside. And it's all about the community that has developed in the last 40 years around skateboarding, and has many interviews and incredible photographs, including the one on the front cover, that shows that this international phenomenon really did take root here in Oceanside 40 years ago. And there is scheduled to be an autograph signing event at the Sunset Market next Thursday, because they're planning on rain tomorrow. So the book, which is a $50 book, is $25 at the market. It's 400 pages, completely thick, and lots of great photographs. I'm going to read a section from that at the next council meeting. The font is about a 4-point font. I could probably read about one page in 10 minutes, because I lose track.
Get in there.
So anyway, thank you.
Councilmember Feller.
Thank you. The Parks and Rec had a senior dance at El Corazon. It's amazing that these seniors, they just keep dancing. It's a terrific thing. The pastor at St. John's Missionary Baptist had his second anniversary. It was a lot of people, and it was probably one of the best things I've been to in a while. Terry Goodman had his retirement party, 35 years. Went to the MLK breakfast. I did, maybe I misunderstood what the speaker said, but he said the council hires the police chief, and I thought that was a little misleading, but anyway, we don't. Get the Chamber Expo next week on the 26th, and I guess we're all supposed to be at meet the elected officials. And there's the Oceanside Agritourism Workshop on the 31st, 8:30 to 4 at Noble Bishop Recreation Center. And if it would be okay, we could close this meeting in honor of Sam Williamson. He was a friend. He was a competitor for this city, and I think we owe him a debt. His funeral is next Thursday, the 26th, at 10 in the morning at Eternal Hills. So, and that's all I have. Thanks.
Councilmember Curran.
Thank you. I attended those similar events. The only other thing, and I think Councilmember Feller covered very well what the upcoming events are. I am going to attend the Agritourism Summit. I've already RSVP'd for that. The only other thing that wasn't on that we need to talk about is on the 28th, we're going to unveil the Martin Luther King sign that we had here at the council meeting last time. They're installing them now, and we're going to have the unveiling on the corridor on the 28th. That's going to be about 10 o'clock in the morning at Martin Luther King School. We'll have a little event, and we'll walk across the street and pull the sheet off the sign, and actually dedicate the corridor. So, thank you.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you. I also attended the MLK, Dr. MLK breakfast, and there were 3 wonderful finalists for the Civic Leader of the Year. And the winner was Gerald Hampton. and he indicated that starting in 2006, that's when he really got involved with the NAACP and has been very, very active with the NAACP since then. The two other folks that were considered were Andrea France. Andrea has volunteered for the city for over 30 years here in Oceanside, including with OPD, North County Retired Military Association, and many other groups. She happens to be the daughter of Gwen Sanders, who was a recipient previously. And Gwen, I mean, she comes from a family of folks that do so much on behalf of people's civil rights. The third person was Ann Sparrow, also a volunteer in Oceanside for over 30 years, especially dedicated to improving the lives of women and girls through the Seroptimist, San Luis Rey Rotary, Oceanside Civitan, and Oceanside Boys and Girls Club, to name a few. We do also have a bridge that is named after Dr. MLK, and that's the Mission Avenue Bridge right off I-5. And that the whole idea was to bridge the community, especially East Side, with the downtown in terms of economic success, and also with education, which is Oceanside High, and we dedicated that a few years ago as well. And I also wanted to pay homage to Mr. Sam Williamson. I did get a chance to. I remember growing up in Oceanside. Sam had sponsored Little League teams and was very, very much involved in the community back then with his business, his insurance business. I got to work with him most recently on the last time he ran for city council, and I really did appreciate what the last things that he did before basically turning it in, and that is he improved greatly Fire Mountain and the traffic there, especially after the shopping center was built there and included all that new traffic. So I want to especially give a shout out to the Williamson family and say, thank you very much for sharing Sam with the city of Oceanside for many years. Sam did just do so much for the city of Oceanside as a council member, as a businessman, and it's with great gratitude that I speak on his behalf. We also had another family member for the community, Charlie Quiroz, who grew up in the East Side, also passed away cancer. I believe he was 53, I think, something like that. So Charlie Quiroz is his family. Condolences. Thank you.
Did you want a moment of silence for Mr. Williamson? A moment of silence for Sam Williamson.